Welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
Friends and family, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
It's Friday. Our guest this week, surfer, radio personality, and play-by-play announcer for the NFL. What? Got his first radio gig in college at Pepperdine University, where he had a double major in political science and communications. Got a pretty fart smeller over here.
I don't know.
You sure you're a surfer?
Yeah.
I'll disprove that in a hurry.
Once graduated, went right into the LA radio scene on the Kevin and Bean show at KROQ.
Yeah.
Dang. And he was also a host for one of our favorite sports teams, the Lakers. Pre-game show, halftime, and post-game. Dude, this guy was, he's in the mix.
Yeah.
Dang. He co-hosted a show with Petros Papadakis.
Yeah.
I think I've...
That's actually the proper Greek pronunciation.
Okay.
He says Papadakis because most people do, but it's Papadakis.
Yeah. And now he leads play-by-play announcers for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
Dang.
Congratulations on the new coach.
Oh,
Yeah.
Beyond stoked.
Yeah. Well, we're
super
going to talk
excited
about all that.
Yeah.
And no, we're stoked to sit down with Mr. Matt Money Smith. Welcome to the show.
Matt Money Smith!
Yeah.
Damn.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
that.
Cheers again.
I've heard that name so many times over the years because of the Lake show
Yeah.
and because of just like all the sports in LA. Matt Money Smith, you've always fucking heard that.
Right.
And I might have knew that from your KROQ days.
A lot of people, especially our age, go back to KROQ.
Yeah.
I mean, that was such a big show when I was on it. So.
Can I just give you my 401 now and give you a 15% return?
All right.
Money. Yeah. No. But we'll
I need to goose mine a little bit. Although it's not been a bad year. The last couple months have actually kind of helped me out a little bit. It's been not a little bit of rough sledding the last couple of years, though.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
23 was the hardest year ever.
It was.
And we got to fast forward through 24 because it's
Another
election year.
Yeah.
Hey,
exactly.
we're optimists.
We're optimistic.
That's right.
We're cup
Positive
half
show.
full, less half empty. Come on, we're half full. Yeah, we're there.
Exactly.
All right. So
We're talking before the show and like where you grew up.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
where we should probably
Gotcha.
start.
So
at
just
the
full
beginning.
origin story.
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in East Chicago, Indiana. So if you think the south side of Chicago is a dump, like just go down a couple more stairs and it's essentially where all the refineries and the steel mills are. So I kind of grew up in that kind of town when the steel mill closed. It was pretty gnarly, but my old man was just kind of one of those. He's still alive, but back then he was one of those guys that was just always chasing and trying to get out. And he was a janitor for a while, and then he was able to buy his own janitorial business and get accounts. So next thing I know, at 12, I'm pushing mops and vacuums around, to help him. And then he got into like carpet and tried to open a carpet store that goes bankrupt, and then he becomes a contractor, and I'm out there shoveling stone. And so what I'm getting at is I kind of learned how to work at a very young age. I just always worked, whether it was paper route when I was 9 to being a janitor at 12 to working the construction sites at, all the way through, even when I was in college in the summers, I'd work those, dishwasher, valet parker. So basically I grew up working. I was just someone that always worked. And I think that also helped with school. I just almost visualize that as work. So I still am very close friends, blue collar neighborhoods tend to create great bonds. And so a lot of my friends I'm still very close with, but they, very good workers, just didn't quite get the school thing. It wasn't for them. And for me, I just, I wanted to get out. I was like, I don't want to live in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, work ethic isn't something that's like, it's taught kind of, but it's mostly just driven based on like the situation you're in,
Yeah.
like
100%.
you're
You're
like
not getting anything if you don't work.
If you have the means, and again, like we try to spoil our kids as much as you can possibly can. To an
100%.
extent, they got to have good grades. But yeah, we all grew up with paper routes and hustling at an early age. And
Right.
it was kind of the norm back then. Now it's a little different.
It's weird.
I've been to Indiana, and because
I'm sorry.
I went to Gary, Indiana.
So that's where so Gary is right next to Whiting, which is right next to East Chicago. So that's where I grew
Gary
up.
is like one of the murder capitals
It's gnarly.
of the world.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
But it's so weird because I was, working for DVS at the time, skate shoe company.
Yeah.
And skateboarding was huge everywhere.
I grew up skateboarding. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was there a great account there?
There's great accounts there.
Yeah.
In different parts of like Milwaukee. I flew into Minnesota, Minneapolis,
Yeah.
and then, toured there, and then made it through Indiana, and then through Milwaukee, and then into Chicago.
Yeah.
So I've seen the middle of America, and it's a trip.
Yeah.
It's like the malls, the mall
was a big
life,
deal.
But it's an interesting place to come because it is so blue collar and so like lower income, but it does have a suburban area too.
It's just very, like where I grew up was very segregated. And look, I mean, skateboarding is what ended up getting me out here. It was, we had one kid in our sort of area that went pro. Jesse Newhouse was signed by Alba, and he was just a killer skater. But otherwise, we were just, watching the Bones Brigade videos, the Streets of Fire videos, the H Street videos, and we had our own little group, of skaters that would skate the city or our little suburbs.
Have you ever heard of Rob Roscoff?
Of course. Oh, yeah.
We had him on.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and he's from...
That's super rad.
He's from Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's a Midwest guy.
And it was awesome to hear his story too, without going off topic too much. But it was like you had to get these zines. Like he would make like his
Punk rock.
do little mailers,
the
and
flyers,
stuff.
yeah,
and like just started connecting with people where the hubs are, which was Santa Cruz and LA and San Diego and stuff. And he started just kind of pen paling people.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then finally got old enough to where he's like, my mom and dad, I saved money, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Through the zines that they would make, him and his buddies, he got to somehow made friends with people on the West Coast in Santa Cruz. This other pro skater that rode for Santa Cruz, Corey O'Brien.
Oh, yeah. Remember Corey?
Yeah, so I guess he has a brother.
Yeah.
And they somehow connected, and Rob Roscoff stayed there, ended up working for Santa Cruz, and then they realized that he was really fucking good.
Yeah.
The dude that started Thrasher said, hey, to... What's the guy's name that owns
Just go listen to the episode,
Yeah,
guys.
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's good. It's a good tease. Go check out. But that's like one of the iconic skateboards,
Yeah, he's got one of
ever.
those.
I mean, the most recognizable graphics ever.
But your
super
guys
rad. Anyway,
skate rats.
Skate Rats. So, back then, it was Thrasher, it was Transworld, but Transworld has some surfing in it. And so I was always like, I want to surf, but you can't really surf Lake Michigan. Now they do. Yeah. Now they figured out, we can surf the Tanker Wakes.
Yeah.
And you can surf Huron a little bit. But like back then, so like, I just tried to figure out how to surf with what we had. So it was skating and it was snowboarding, and that's what we did, and so that was our surfing. And so the first second, like Rob saved enough money to get out, for me, it was college. I was like, well, the only way I'm getting out of here is if I can get a scholarship to a school in California. Yeah. So
any school in California.
But, well, it's funny, like I applied to UCLA. I wanted to be in LA, for whatever reason, just Southern California. I didn't think about San Diego.
Can we go back though?
Yeah.
When did you pick up skateboarding?
Really young. So our neighborhood, we started skateboarding probably when we were like 10, like 9, 10-ish. And then, kind of started getting good enough where, okay, now like the construction thing helped because now I'm designing ramps. We're like building ramps together now, and now we've got a launch ramp. Oh, and now we got a quarter pipe, and now Phil's got a bunch of money, and his dad said if we can do it, he'll put a half pipe in the backyard. Well, now we're building a half pipe, and like so yeah, it was. We were all in. We were super into it, and.
But what about the brutal winters? You guys would have to like skate in the basement? Find parking garages?
Basement. Like, we would skate basements. So you would just we would then build a rail out of like PVC or metal pipe, and we would just do rail tricks and grind tricks. And we had like, just build those little ledges and, little kind of like curvies and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And you said one guy turned pro for
Jesse Newhouse he wasn't like he wasn't a close friend, especially me, I barely knew him, but he was a Chicago
area,
kid, so we would see him skate, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And like, dude, Jared Jesse went pro, and it was like, oh wow, this can actually work. You know,
what
you could
kind
do something.
of skateboard did you have?
I had my first board was a Hosoi, which is crazy, just because our fast forwarding way ahead, we have a relationship with Steve Van Dorn, who everybody does because he's just the best guy on earth. But like, it was really weird to make that connection with Christian, knowing like, I had to save my money. I had to, it was like one of those things like I want that hammerhead.
Yeah,
and I knew not,
Hammerhead with the rising sun.
Exactly. It was just the old Hosoi with the circle and the triangle, and it said Hosoi, and it was a silver hammerhead with, I think it had indies and rat bones, and that's what got me started.
Did you put the plastic coper though?
Yeah, I did.
Of course.
I did. I had to back then.
When you finally save up enough money and you go and build that skateboard, and you got you got the trucks, you got you're looking at the the glass case.
Exactly.
You got the bearings.
Bearings,
what
Swiss
am I gonna
bearings.
do? How much is that? Oh
Right.
yeah, German, Swiss. I don't know.
100%.
What am I gonna go?
The nose guard.
Nose guard, the rails.
Skid plate, rail guards.
Exactly.
The
skid
board
plate.
Yeah, on the tail.
Yeah.
20 pounds.
Exactly. It's a tank.
But
Just
I
could
think-
not skate it on the street.
But that was pre kind of ollie, we weren't really doing ollies. You would just kind of power up the curves.
Yeah.
And we used to put inner tubes, an old bicycle inner tube that got a hole in it, and you'd wrap it around the front trucks and across the deck.
Oh,
and then-
right.
And you could slide your feet under, and you could
You could lift the
you
ollie.
could skate,
Exactly.
and then you could punch it in, and then you could just go It was good for launch ramps. I'm doing 360s and hopping curves. It was like pre-ollie because the skates were so heavy.
And it was totally. You would just create like
And
that's
you're 10 years old. And
exactly.
You're like on this it's like trying to do an air on a longboard.
on a couple cinder blocks. Yeah, exactly. Air with a longboard. It was.
Were you good at school? Obviously,
School was big for me because, like I said, that was my ticket out. And I knew I'd probably need a scholarship in order to be able to afford it. And
was it pressure from the parents, or were you just smart?
pressure for sure. Yeah, my older brother's incredibly smart. He went Ivy League. He went to Penn. Graduated top of his class. That whole thing. So I had to figure that out. And I was like, yeah, I ain't him. That is not me.
What's your brother's name?
Kevin.
Kevin. Fucking Kevin.
Exactly.
Fuck,
Hey,
dude.
where you set the bar?
Where's the fucking bar at, bro?
Exactly.
I can't see it.
Exactly. And that's like, I was a shithead, because we were skaters, and I started smoking when I was 14 and drinking when I was 13, and we would get into a shit ton of trouble. And he was the number one athlete in the high school. He was the number one student in the high school. It goes to Penn, and I'm, my parents are looking at me like, he's 4 years older, so a full cycle older. And it's funny, like, to me, it's now you guys are my therapists. Like, that's when I realized, I was like, oh yeah, my parents didn't think I was going to make it, because Kevin didn't have to fucking be a janitor, and he didn't have to work the construction sites, but here I am.
Yeah.
My old man Ralph is like, oh, Matt's an idiot. Put a fucking mop in his hand.
We're gonna put it.
Exactly.
He's a worker.
He's going to have to start working.
You imagine those parent cocktail party conversations. You
Tell us. Tell us.
Well, Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah, you look out on the balcony, and I'm just like,
What about
sticking
Matt?
the beer's
Your
head.
dad's like, Matt who?
Yeah, exactly. Matt's really good with a vacuum. He really,
Matt.
really gets into the corners and empties the trash better. Coffee spills, he doesn't freak out. It's great.
You're their favorite, bro.
I was able to dig out. I was able to dig out of that hole and do just enough to get out.
Was there any skate parks or?
Yeah, we had a couple. We had the big one was Rotation Station, which was far. It was in Rockford.
What a great name.
Yeah, it was. So I think it was a roller rink, and then they realized, skateboarding's a lot bigger than roller skating, so we'll just build a bunch of ramps in here.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was just find your own. We'd go into the city, and like Chicago's got some really good curbs and some really good hips, so we would hit the hips like launch ramps and curbs and stairs and do all that.
Isn't it crazy that the weird fads and trends, like roller skating?
Yeah.
And like drive-in theaters, it's like things that had their day in the sun, and they like long-term,
Decades.
Oh yeah.
and they were everywhere.
Gone.
Like, roller skating rinks were everywhere. Like I remember in elementary school, those were the places that you went every like Friday and Saturday night. Like
pick up chicks.
Yeah, pick up
Exactly.
chicks. Yeah. And you're just like, wow,
They're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Well, we have the one up in Fountain Valley, which
one.
was trippy because like when my kids were in high school, they would go.
Yeah.
Like there was like a little window there where they were like going, and it got popular.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Roller skating. So
It's like,
wow.
you never hear of that.
No.
And remember that, like, well, our kids were younger, but the whole jumpy thing.
Yeah, bounce house.
Oh, bounce-
yeah,
yeah,
does that
yeah,
still happen?
exactly.
Because our kids are aging out of that. But
I think it is.
They aged out, but it's still popular.
I think
Because
it's
like
huge.
it went from like the bounce house to like now it's trampoline parks, and now they have like ninja climbing classes that are
exactly.
super popular.
so when you were in junior high school,
Yeah.
what like skate brands were you into, or what kind of
So
what trends were you guys into?
So like I remember, as much as we loved the Bones Brigade video, and that's what's so wild about living out here, because Lance lives in Seal, so I'll see Lance Mountain every now and then. Could not be a
Does he live
nicer
in
guy.
Seal?
Yeah, dude, he lives in Seal, and he does his own stuff on Instagram. He does art, and like I'll just every now and then I'll be on Main Street, and he'll be going to take a shipment into the post office, and we'll just kind of chop it up. And he's such a nice guy, but that H Street video changed everything. Like that's because it was like that, and also like the Nodis clip in Streets of Fire was another one, because they were street skaters that were using curbs and urban landscapes to make that video. Like the Bones Brigade, it was still Tony Hawk on a pipe and Caballero on a pipe and Lance in a pool, and it was like we don't really have that. And then so when the Matt Hensley H Street video came out, like we freaked out. Like all we did was no complies for the next 3 weeks, just trying to get them down, and handrails came into play, and
It's a trip because there was two things that seemed like in that era that happened that kind of degraded or downgraded skateboarding. There was a boom in skate parks, and then they went away.
Yeah,
And then vert skating was the shit.
exactly.
Tony Hawk and
Right.
frickin'. I mean, that's what it was.
It was Soy versus Hawk. Pick a side.
And then when those videos started coming out, it killed the skate park and verts.
Because now everyone wanted to
you
ollie.
all
And,
aspire to. You look at those guys, and they're like, "Holy crap! What they're doing on those like half pipes and shit. That's like Superman shit, you know." But then you're watching these. It opened your eyes of what you could skate around town and where you could find, and like, oh, like I
100%.
found this little like curb or this little hip or this little you just started finding stuff.
and you could be there all day.
It's a trip because that's so different from what the origin of the origin of skateboarding is just sidewalk surfing,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when pools and vertical, trans
That the
Yeah,
technical
the transition and
transitions and vertical, like that was a whole different kind of skateboarding.
100%.
And then that Nodis Kappas, Matt Hensley, all the dudes that are taking it to the street and doing like flip tricks and
That was nuts.
grabs and like all that shit. You're just like, wait, what? Like that's
We can do that right out front of our house.
and
We
it's like almost like, again, we always say this, like subculture and a culture. Because skateboarding is a subculture, but there's many different types.
slappy curbs, wall rides, like dude, there were so many little like.
Yeah,
the one that didn't stick is freestyle,
which is
like,
wild.
That was so
because
technical.
everybody else just stole it. Like freestyle is what gave everything else all their tricks. Like Tony Hawk becoming best friends with Rodney Mullen is what created his style. He's like, shit, I'm just going to do what Rodney's doing on the ramp. And
I wish I knew those guys' names. They would be at Huntington Pier, and we had like an arcade, and there was like it's kind of a little mini Venice beach vibe, kind of just weird, eclectic, But there would be those little guys in the skates, and they would have a couple hundred people around, and they were just going fucking off. But it wasn't like it picked up and everybody thought it was like. A huge trend.
Well, we were definitely. It was not a huge. I don't want to it was not a huge trend. We were definitely outcast. Yeah, dude,
Bro,
there you go.
How sick is that?
Exactly.
This is a book from Hugh Holland.
Nice.
And
like
Hugh Holland.
Yeah.
Shout out to you. Captures amazing skateboarding from back in the 70s.
When it was sidewalk surfing,
when it was
like you
sidewalk
said,
surfing,
when it wasn't. But it's almost, it's funny about that though. So like you think about what surfing's become.
Yeah.
And like surfing is now skating on waves, like airs,
Lip slides,
lip slides,
50-50 grinds.
floaters are like floating on the, or like grinds, and we're watching guys try to basically kick flip, with their boards. It's hilarious.
And
like
they,
it's
some of them do. Some
Yeah.
of them,
totally do it.
there is definitely some technical skateboarding and surfing right now.
100%. I mean, it's
Like the going big part of it.
yeah. It's if you think about it, it's just quarter pipe. I mean, it's quarter pipe, and you get to the bottom of the transition, get your power, get to the top, and as soon as you hit that lip, you got to create that sort of air, which is kind of what you do on a quarter pipe.
So was there any competitive skateboarding
No.
in your?
No, we just kind of had our own little. We were too. I don't want to make it sound like it was. I think I'm cool or anything, but we were just drunks and getting high and doing drugs and drinking beers and skating.
Was there like lake life, summer lake life, or river?
We had a little bit. We had one friend who had some money, and his parents had a lake house, so we'd get kind of lucky every now and then. They'd let him bring up his degenerate friends, and they'd teach us how to water ski and wakeboard and do that sort of stuff.
I figured obviously it's a more affluent lifestyle for sure, just like anywhere, but you would think that would be kind of a big summer thing, let's go hit the shores at the lake and kind of the vibe, kind of like your beach vibe, but
100%.
And it's a trip. That trip that I went to Milwaukee and stuff, it was not summer yet. It was like spring going into summer. And I remember tripping when we got, when we were leaving Milwaukee and hitting,
So if you're Milwaukee, you're probably coming to Chicago next.
Yeah. But off
off Lake Michigan, yeah.
And it was like a weekday, a school work weekday. And we pull around and I start seeing the water. It's huge, It's like
gigantic.
It looks like an ocean.
Yeah, you can't see the inside.
And I'm like, whoa, this is cool, tripping out. And then I look, and there's fucking like hundreds of people sunbathing and like frolicking.
It's like 45 degrees.
They've been locked up in
Exactly.
a fucking cabin in the basement
but
for
it's
6
like,
months.
It was like the first day of summer.
Yeah.
Like I was tripping. I was like, and the guy at the time, I think it was Adam Bovey. I go, dude. I go, is it a holiday? He goes, no, dude.
It's just
when the sun's out, people are fucking taking advantage of it.
100%.
I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you come to really appreciate the sun, like really appreciate it, because the tough people don't. I think people that don't grow up in it, like they don't realize, like December, November, like they're not cold. It's when you get back half of January through the first week of March. Dude, it is gnarly. Yeah. It's like you walk outside and it feels like there's razor blades on your face. It's so cold when the wind blows.
I mean, just of recent, 20 below, like double digits below, and everything's locked up.
So when things like March rolls around, like even March for the most part, the whole month is freezing as shit.
Yeah.
But maybe you get that day at the back end of March, and dude, it is tank tops and shorts, and it's like, what is it out? You look at your watch, like, oh, it's 41. Everyone's just like, this is the greatest day ever.
That's fun.
Yeah, they come to really appreciate it. That's totally fucked. That's why when I came out here, I was like, there's no chance I'm ever going back. No way.
So how much into snowboarding did you
Big time, yeah. Like it's funny, our place the hills there are shit,
So
Wilmot, but like basically. Back then, but back then was before parks became a thing. So we would, and it took us a while to we had to convince people to let us on the mountain. Like I remember Wilmot was the first place that would let us on. Like they wouldn't let us snowboard. Everybody, back then they were like, oh, hooligans on, skiers wouldn't let you do it. So that was the one place that would let us on, and then. Over the next year, it kind of opened up a little bit. Alpine Valley would let us on. Devil's Head wouldn't. So, we would have to pick and choose them. So, how about this? Our go-to place was not a mountain. It was a valley in Iowa. It was this place called Sundown. And when you would park, you are looking around, and it's nothing but flat land. And
there's a gorge down.
Huge gorge. Wow. Huge. And so that became our place because they built the first park. And so,
was there snow in the gorge?
Yeah, snow in the gorge, and that's what you did. They were super snowboard friendly. So they had a park, and they had jumps, and they had a mini half pipe, and they had rails and shit like that.
What was that place called?
Sundown in Dubuque, Iowa. And yeah, so that
How
ended
far
up.
is that from where?
That was probably like 2.5, 3 hours. So bunch of us would go. We'd stay at like the Clarion, and pile 20 kids into one room that was probably $30 a night, and maybe 20. And you were like, dude, I don't know if we can afford it. Maybe we just sleep in our car. And it's like, we can't sleep in our car. It's 15 degrees
freeze.
out. We'll freeze to death.
Aluminum can.
Yeah,
Or
so that
steel
became
can.
our place. Yeah, so snowboarding was a big deal.
Expensive too, right?
Yeah, back then, our lift tickets, it's crazy now. Like my youngest daughter snowboards, so what do you want for Christmas? I want an Icon Pass. Like it's crazy. It's $1,000. It's just stupid.
But it depends if you're going up like one weekend, it's ridiculous, or a couple. Like if you're invested,
Exactly.
and you break it down, like hey, each day you go, it brings down.
It's like the beach pass. It's like I can pay for the beach pass in a month. It's fine.
But
what's great about skateboarding and surfing, there's not a lot of things you have to invest in.
Exactly.
Where snowboarding,
Lift tickets.
Fucking A.
Yeah, lift tickets.
I mean, it's a lot of maintenance and a
Lift
lot of
tickets,
experience, a lot of
the commute.
energy.
Yeah,
The
gas.
commute to where
Hotel,
you go. Hotel. I mean, if
you're going to Mammoth and you're not going up and coming back, you're staying.
But snowboard, expensive.
Yeah.
Bindings, expensive.
Jacket,
Helmet,
boots,
goggles, gloves,
yeah.
pants, jacket.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's an investment.
helmet,
Yeah.
It's a rich sport, man's sport. But there's ways to do it cheap if you are truly invested, and that's your we can.
I mean, back then, it was just, you already had the clothes because you had them. It's cold, so you didn't have to really buy unless you were like, oh, I got to have a snowboard jacket. No, dude, we were freaking white trash. We had shitty Carhartt work jackets and jeans, like 2 layers of jeans.
Which is what's cool to wear.
I know, right? But that was all, we didn't have these super cool...
Thermals and Scotch Guard, old pair of jeans.
100%, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And then you bought your snowboard, and back then, lift tickets were like $20.
Yeah.
They were, 15 maybe, because we would get, we didn't have to pay for adult prices or something. So it was manageable. We would do that probably like twice a month. We'd go like every other weekend.
We would go after school because Mountain High would stay open have lights on, and we'd be like, if we leave after school at 3, we get up there by 5, we could snowboard till close at 10.
Yeah.
Get like a good 3, 4, 5 hours in.
When I got out here to Pepperdine, I ended up bringing I don't remember if I brought it right away. I think I might have brought it. It was like my sophomore, junior year. And that's when I started working at KROQ. And a guy I met, Zeke, turned me on to Waterman. So I started snowboarding Waterman, dude. That's a shithole, but it was so much fun.
A really good spot too.
It was so
for like core people.
Yeah. So he grew up in Big Bear, and he was an incredible skier, and so he was like, dude, super secret spot, and so he would park. You get 2 cars, and he would park one at the bottom, and you could go and take the backside down.
Yeah.
And then as long as you had a car that could drive you back to the front side and take the lift up.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. So we did that. We did Baldy, and we did Mountain High and stuff.
Yeah, those are open. It's killer. It's so close.
So going back to your childhood, were you good in sports? Others like
we all played sports. Yeah, everybody played sports in the neighborhood. So grew up playing baseball, and that was kind of my sport. A little bit of soccer, a little bit of basketball. I wrestled for a minute there, but you played. I think it's probably similar for us. Yeah, they're seasonal. So we'd play. I didn't play football. My parents wouldn't let me play football. I was a really small kid. I didn't sprout until like halfway through my freshman year. So I was too small to play Pop Warner. Mom wouldn't let me. So I wrestled 70 pounds and under. Crushed the lightweight division. It was crazy. There were maybe 20 of us in the city that wrestled 70 and under, and when you get to cities, and then you go to basketball and then go to baseball. That's what you did.
And your brother was 4 years older than you, so he was like graduated every time that
exactly. So he graduated high school when I started high school. Graduated college when I started college. So we didn't really. I wasn't really close with either of my brothers. I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. So growing up, just kind of it was find your own way.
Yeah.
And now we're really close, which is nice. As you kind of get older, that age gap shrinks. It's all the same. But like back then, it was a pretty big gap.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot because when you're a Grom and you're looking up to these, they're only 18 or 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And you're like 12 or 13, those years are
right.
That guy's a man.
It's a
he's
huge
an
gap.
adult, you know, like.
Huge gap.
Yeah.
But when you get older, it's like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah. Like this guy's like 20 years older than me. we're like, that's easy.
Right.
He acts like he's like 10 years younger. He's freaking grown over here.
Right.
Damn right.
We get to this age, and age is a number. That's what it becomes.
Yeah.
So-
I don't want to be mature. I want to be a kid again,
Exactly.
like trying to roll it back.
Exactly.
So,
Responsibility? No.
did you have jobs outside of what your dad was doing, or?
I was a hustler. I just wanted to make money because we didn't have money. So the only way I was going snowboarding or drinking or, taking girls on dates or paying for my car was to work. So I worked non-stop. None of my friends, worked like I did. I was always chasing something. I worked before food trucks were cool. I worked a fucking food truck in the city of Chicago outside the Board of Trade, a roach coach from a joint called Chicken Olay. And the dudes that worked there thought I was the craziest fucking guy. They're like, who is this white dude that is driving, all the cooks? They were the coolest guys, these Mexican dudes, and we'd all get stoned after I got done with the lunch truck. And they were just like...
Wait, you were the driver?
I was the driver and I sold them. And so, I guess...
So you worked...
So what happened was, Chicago's this... I'm trying to think the best way to put this. Chicago's like a racist city, but not really. It's not this super gnarly, you're this ethnic minority and I'm gonna, F you. It's not like that. It's just weird. It's because even the white people are separated. Like the Polish people live here and the Italian people live here and the Irish people live here. It's just a very segregated city. So basically, sort of the way it was explained to me when I got the job is they couldn't put one of the Mexican guys on the truck because the other white dudes would never let him park anywhere. They treated him like shit. The people wouldn't come buy burritos from him. And so they were like, we need a white dude to roll out and sell the burritos, to be the face of it. And I was like, whatever, man. If you're going to pay me $6 cash an hour and then I get a bonus.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Wow.
And so they were like, we'll bonus you if you sell the truck.
How did you find out about this?
It was a friend of a friend's dad who owned the restaurant, the Urquiza. Sergio Urquiza owned it. And it was on Adams in downtown, and so I would drive from the south side downtown and, at 6 a.m. and help them load up the truck, and then I'd and so it was, and that was the other thing is I kind of got this, you can see I'm a small guy, but this kind of big voice would sort of, I don't know, intimidate people a little bit, so you had to fight for your spot, because, it's, basically think of the New York Stock Exchange. That's what this is in Chicago. It's the Board of Trade. So it's where all of the trading gets done.
So all the people come out of the buildings
for lunch,
lunch,
and they just need, because they got to get back. The market's open. So they just want to run down, grab something, and get back up. And so you got to jockey for spots. People, if you're in a spot, I remember I used to get into it with Burrito King all the time. This dude was the biggest asshole. And I'd just be like, don't give a fuck, dude. Don't care. I'm here. He's like, that's bullshit. This is a seniority, and it's almost like being in the wave. It's like the seniority, you got to get in line. I was like,
should have been here yesterday.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was kind of like that sort of vibe.
What a trip.
Yeah.
That whole Roach Coach, there was a trend.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago. Remember, that was a thing to do, was to go to these Roach Coach places, and they
100%.
became a really cool, fun place to have lunch.
Yeah.
People
They became totally trendy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went once or twice, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the food, it's good, or they wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you think of the quality, it's just going to be,
Well, what's a trip is that was just part of their life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you're splitting tips, you're making money.
Yeah, making money, and people, and so our whole thing was chicken. Everything was chicken. So the other places, it was mostly pork or it was mostly beef. And so our thing was, we got chicken burritos, chicken quesadillas, chicken tacos, and that's, simple, and so we ended up pulling a ton of females because they
more.
Just kind of the way, he was a very smart guy. This guy, Sergio, he did that. And then, so I ended up doing a lot of jobs for him. He owned a wedding hall. He hired me at 15 to valet park. And again, I did not sprout until probably my junior year.
You know how to drive a stick?
So I could, because my old man would have me drive for the construction sites, he would have me drive the dump truck to load up with all the trash and then take it. Yeah. So I knew how to drive, and he's like, you know how to drive? And I was like, yeah, I can drive. He's like, you want to be a valet at my wedding hall? And I was like,
Damn
I
right.
mean, yeah, I guess so. Sure. He's like, okay, don't fuck up. Don't crash any cars. And I was like, okay, no problem, Mr. Casey, you got it. And he's like, all right. So these people would pull up for their weddings in their suits and their tuxedos, and they'd be looking at me and they're like,
they have money to
I'm like,
spend.
Can you
They're
touch the pedals?
I'm giving you my car. I was like, yeah, no problem. I got it. You know, and I'd drive away, stick and all
So
that.
this guy had a bunch of different.
He was just one of those dudes, you know, that owned restaurants, and
Catering
so I ended up,
and this and that.
tapping in with him, and I was close with his son, Sergio, little Sergio, and so
That's right.
whatever job. What I'm getting at is, like, if I were to give anybody advice, just say yes to everything, because you have no idea where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
And so anytime,
Relationships and meeting the people.
100%. Anytime someone said you want to do a job, I was just like, yeah, what are we doing? Let's go make some money.
It's good advice.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned your voice early on. Did you have it?
I did, yeah. So I was a little kid. I was small, and at 14, I got the voice. And I didn't really grow until I was about 15 and a half.
Your balls dropped?
Yeah,
and
balls dropped, thing showed up.
Did you ever say you had a voice for radio?
Everybody used to say that. Everybody. And so that's...
Kind of played in your mind?
Yeah, like that was always a seed that was planted. I never really thought of it as being able to make a living off it. I don't know why. It just never... I looked at it more as... I wanted to be a litigator. I was like, because that to me, I just wanted to make money. Like, that was my idea.
You knew that was a guarantee.
I was like,
payday.
Yeah. So my brother became a lawyer, but even before that, I think a lot of it had to do with movies. Like, I loved courtroom movies. I loved Injustice for All. I loved The Verdict. Like, for some reason, those films just resonated with me. To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, I don't know why, they just did. And so I was like, you know what? I could be really good at that. I'm really good at convincing people of things, and I've got this voice and this presence for whatever reason.
Because you got like a mixture of like Jack Nicholson,
Yeah, I get that a
lot. Like almost like game show host,
Right.
But
I get Jack Nicholson a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's just a little gravel, you know, to it. It's probably from smoking at 13, you know, it gives you whiskey at 14. It probably gives you a little bit more scratch. Like both my brothers have lower voices, but they don't kind of have you can probably hear it, the gritty, the gravel to it that I do. So, and kids, I don't smoke anymore. That was when I was dumb and young. So don't smoke.
Don't smoke.
Cigarettes.
Did your dad or grandpa and other it's something that's everybody has
No,
physical,
my parents don't have it. So yeah, my dad does not have a deep voice. On my mom's side, maybe a little bit more. My mom's side is our Eastern European sort of blockhead Baltic people. So I think maybe we have a little bit more of that on that side of the family.
How fortunate is it that you made friends with this Sergio family, or with
The Arquistas, Sergio. But you know what? I think that, and so
what ethnicity are they?
Argentinian. Yeah, they're from Argentina. So they were. He passed away sadly, but he was just the coolest guy, man. And he just kind of took. My old man worked a lot, had to, and he was around a lot, so kind of became almost like a surrogate dad of sorts, because my dad just couldn't be there a lot after work or at some of the games, and just would always kind of, because he had a bunch of money, and so he would always kind of, I think he liked having me around to make a point to his son, like, hey, look how hard he's working. Look at what this kid's doing to try to get this, you need.
Good
influence. So I think that's the way he looked at it. Like, hey, I'll give you all this stuff and you're going to help me because you're going to push my son who lives this life of luxury and needs a little bit of a kick in the ass. And so, so it was
you
a really
got the
good
money part pretty early too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so the money name came from Kevin and Bean. I don't know why. I have no idea the day it happened. But when you were on a morning show, you just had a nickname. Like everybody had a nickname, Chalky, exactly. So like Lightning was the producer, Jimmy was just Jimmy, but you had Big Leo and Kennedy and I don't know, it was just everybody had a beer mug and all a Big Tad, it's morning
Party
show
personality.
Yeah. So
worked valet.
Yeah.
Worked the road coach. What other
construction, janitor, landscaping, dishwasher, telemarketing, and that was the worst fucking job ever, dude. Click. I will, yes, click. Manager's like, why don't you have any leads? I'm like, your product is shit. Nobody wants your True Green Supreme lawn care. It's like, so that was the worst job ever. And I was fine quitting. Like, I didn't care. It was one of the things, and I think that's advice I would pass on to everybody. Dude, if it's not happening, just bail. There's nothing wrong. I remember I walked out from the telemarketing. My manager was a complete asshole. And I walked out and he's like, you're not going to get paid. I said, keep your fucking money. This job sucks. And I just walked out having worked like 6 days and I don't need my $27 for my $3.75 an hour. It's okay.
This is
you can have it.
I learned enough.
I know that I don't want to do this. And there is, to me, like there's value to that, figuring out what you don't want to do. Like, I'll be honest, I still, like, to this day, I miss working with my hands. I really do. Was it a shitty job? Yeah, landscaping was shitty, dude. When you're carrying around those big-ass box trees and you're rolling, but you're working out.
Self-worth, and you're it's a workout, but it's not a workout. You're doing shit, and it keeps your mind busy.
And you start here, and you finish here, and you get to see it. You get to see, like, okay, this was a mound of dirt, and now here's the lawn, and here's the trees, and here's our shrubs, and we planted our flag. And there's just something
accomplishment.
Yeah, there's something cool about that.
They say one of the most rewarding jobs is demolition, like a demolition job.
Really?
Yeah. Like fucking shit up.
Exactly.
Like big machinery, just knocking shit down.
I had to demo a porch. I had to demo a big thing in the Midwest are these enclosed patios. So think about your patio. Well, they have the same thing, but they put like screens or real thin plastic to keep so they can heat them in the winter.
Keep the bugs out in the sun.
So we had to do a job where they were just rebuilding this new. They were going to expand it and make it bigger. So my old man's like, hey, can you go out and can you demo the patio? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like you said, I was like, fucking best job, dude. I don't have to carry anything. All I do is knock shit down.
I'm not fixing it, making it look pretty. I'm fucking I'm breaking this shit down.
And it's more fun breaking shit down
dude.
than building something.
It is so fun. And so I'm with my buddy and we're looking at this thing and it's attached to the house. And he's like, all right, how do we do this? How do you want to do it? I was like, well, obviously we got to, make sure we detach it from the house. Let's do that first. So I'm, looking at the flange and pulling that off and making sure we've got it detached from the house. And so we realize, once we get all that done, it's now floating and it's got about like a 1/2 inch gap between the patio and the house. And he's like, how do you want to knock it down? And I was like, I got an idea. So I climb up on the roof of this. It's got a pitched roof, and I climb on the roof and I straddle the pitch. So I've got a leg on each side, and I just start rocking, and it starts moving.
Wow!
And it just snapped off the frame and went down. And I guess the people inside were losing their freaking minds.
Sounded like a freaking bomb went off in the background.
Yes, my old man comes out, and he ends up, 20 minutes later, as we're knocking it all apart, he's like kind of screaming and yelling, "The fuck you doing, you dumb fuck? You know what you could have done?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" It's like, we were working smart, Dad. I just, instead of taking it apart, I'd be out here all day. I'm saving you money. We're getting paid by the hour. I was like, we got this thing knocked down. And he got his hands and he starts thinking, he's like, yeah, that's pretty smart. I was like, yeah, right. I was like, that's the way we do
what
it.
we always like to say is mix business with pleasure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
I'm going to ride this thing.
I was like, dude, we don't need to freaking take the roof off first, shingle by shingle. Now let's get the plywood off. Now let's get the truck. No, I was like, I think we can do this. And that was it.
It might just fall apart as it falls.
Yeah. But demo, to your point, demo is awesome. We used to love when it was demo work. It was the best.
Nice. So if you're in high school, you're starting to like map out colleges, like you're a smart kid, good grades, so California, the California dream.
So no, not really. Originally, I was very influenced by my brother and what he was doing. I just even though I hated him, figuratively, not literally, but like, man, this guy's got it all. And I was just like, okay, well, I'll do what he did. And so I started looking at schools on the East Coast and
to be a lawyer.
Yeah. And he planted the seed. He's like, hey, I think my buddy Scott King is playing basketball at this school called Pepperdine, and it's right on the beach. You should look at it. I think you'd really like it there. And I was like, okay. And so they used to have these college fairs back in the day. People,
they still do them.
They do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's funny. My kids never went to any of them because my daughter,
they already accepted in like freshman year.
Yeah, well, my oldest was an athlete, so she was getting recruited, and then she played lacrosse.
Nice.
Yeah.
My daughter's playing lacrosse.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
it was great. It was really fun. So I went to this big college fair, and Pepperdine had their booth set up, and they just got like the threefold thing that's behind the guy that's selling it, and it's just all the pictures, and I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna go to school there. And so I just applied. I got in. They gave me a bunch of money, and I got the rest in student loans. My parents, wanted to help, so they scraped together whatever they could possibly afford, and between those three things, we were able to make it work. And I was able to get out to Malibu.
Did you have the grades to get there? Okay.
Yeah, so I had the grades, and gave me. I think back then it was like 18 grand a year, 19 grand a year, which is hilarious considering it's now 65. But so I think they gave me 10, and then I got loans for like 5 or 6 a year, and then my parents, I think, were able to. They figured out a way to give me like $2,500 a year for college, and and then I worked. I worked in the admissions department, and then I got a job at the Chart House. Parking cars.
Chart House alumni.
Yeah, dude. So I got a job at the Chart House parking cars, and then I got a job at a record company, and then I got the job at Malibu. Yeah, right at the Topanga Point, dude. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, talk about
staring at that wave, dude.
Dude, you're from the Midwest. You come to California.
Yep.
And in the epitome of where people around the world, not just the Midwest, when they think of California, they think of fucking Malibu,
Exactly.
LA, Hollywood, like that's what they're thinking of. And here you are parlaying it to your best advantage.
Yeah.
And getting a job at some place, because Chart House it's not as prestigious as it used to be, but
back then it was.
Back then it was. Holy shit.
Back then it was big time. Big time.
All of our friends worked out on more. Everybody we knew in the industry.
Yeah, dude. It was a big surf spot. I still Chad was freaking hilarious. This dude, Chad and Eric were the two dudes that I worked with, and they were total burnout surfers. And all they did on Saturday and Sunday when we had to work brunch was just stare at the wave, and then eventually be like, hey dude, yeah, you got to fucking cover for me. And I'd be like, all right. And they would just grab their board and they would walk down the rocks and just surf the Topanga Point there. And I would cover for them. And then they would come back out and the other one would go. And
how many movie stars would you see?
Some, not a lot, but definitely some. There were a couple. I got into an argument with Steve Perry. That was a really good one because Dave, my boss,
singer of Journey.
Yeah, Dave, my boss. There was really only
Did he
one
have
rule.
a high-pitched voice?
Oh gosh, I think it was. Yeah. I remember his car. It was probably like it was before the Mercedes. It was like before the Mercedes convertibles changed to the more modern look when they kind of were that old. That they were. It was like the convertible that had the two circle lights on each side. It was like a 380 SS. So he was driving a red Mercedes convertible, and he pulled in. And the only rule we had really was no one could park their own car. He's like, you guys are insured. If these people park their cars and bump into one of mine, then it's a nightmare for me. So no matter what, no one parks their own car. And I was like, okay. So Steve Perry pulls in and he's like, hey, is it all right if I just park it right there? I'm like, I'm sorry, sir, you can't do that. There's this is private property. It's the rules. You cannot park. We're responsible for every car. I know, but you can just watch me park it. No, I'm sorry, can't do it. So this goes back and forth. Finally, he just mother effs me, peels out of the parking lot, and you guys have all parked there before because I'm sure you surfed the spot, so you know what it's like on that curve, man. So he ends up pulling out, having to go probably 50 yards up the road, parks, and I'm just watching all these cars hauling ass by him. He's got his long hair, and it's blowing by the time he walks up. His hair is all freaking just tweaked out. He's just looking at me like, you fucking little prick. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Those are the rules. Like, no one parks their car. And he just storms into the Chart House.
Did you go, who's crying now?
Right?
Well, I mean,
one man can't park his car.
Parallel parking on PCH. It's like, you're more likely to get swiped or damaged than inside the lot there.
I mean,
I'm like, dude, I park cars. It's what I do. What am I going to do to your car?
What a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder you got kicked out of Journey.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. There's
What am I going to do?
guy that sings for Journey.
Sounds just like him.
Sounds better than
Yeah.
him.
That was always my line to people, like, because it's Malibu. People are pulling in with Ferraris, with Porsches, with Rolls, and they're just like, and I'm a shithead college student, and they're just like, you ain't parking that. I'm like, dude, it's a car. What am I going to do to it? I'm going to go 50 feet right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to park your car. It's not that big of a deal. And they'd be like, yeah, you're right. I was like, exactly. Go. I'll park it up front. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
These people have been to places like the Chart House with valet parking.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, come on.
I mean, they're right to look at us and be like, these guys really, like, we were a pretty straggly bunch. It was a pretty gnarly crew.
When they pull in, you're right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
as soon as they pull in, we're in our
valet
Hawaiian
station,
shirt and our khakis.
Your umbrella.
Yeah.
Like,
whole thing.
it says, hey, this is valet parking and you have to get
It is weird. It is a weird concept.
Like, why do you fucking have to argue this?
I'm with you. It's a really weird concept.
I think it's just. I mean, most places it's.
Don't get me wrong. I always do it myself. Hey.
It's limited. It's limited parking, and they got to kind of maneuver cars as.
Oh yeah, we'd have to stack them.
Yeah,
we'd have to stack them 2-3 deep.
I mean, it's either a super bougie place or it's a place that has limited parking.
I will say this because it's a long time ago. Statute of limitations. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But my big thing was I stole change.
Yeah.
So I financed a semester in Europe by stealing change from cars at the Chart House.
Yeah. Dude, you and every single valet parker in the world.
Because that was, it's like, dude, they're
They
not
don't
going to
take this
corner.
They have no idea that this, and so it got
no sunglasses, no wallets, just a few coins.
Just a couple coins, 50 cents
there
here, 75 cents there.
Too.
So
Ray-Ban.
Yeah, I remember one of the Eric stole. Dude left like a full on, like it was like a quarter of weed in his thing, and he's like, check it out, dude. He freaking stole it. Dude comes out.
What was he gonna say? Like, you took my weed?
Well, he did. He comes out, and the dude is losing his mind. He was kind of a muscly dude too. I was like, oh man, this is not good. And he's like, you stole my book. And he's like, I'm gonna call the cops. He's like, and he was just like, you little fuck. He's like, no, seriously, if you want, I'll call the cops and they can just do the full investigation. So pissed.
That's too easy.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
like,
smart.
Yeah.
Somebody took my cocaine.
But
then,
did
they really?
I mean, and he didn't even hesitate. He's like, "Oh my gosh, really? Well, hold on. I'll call the police and we'll get to the bottom of this."
So
911's pretty easy to call.
So you're valet. I mean, a lot of people are like dishwasher. Then I got moved up to the salad bar, and then I got moved up to bus, and then I got moved up to waiter. So.
Yep. No, valet.
That's was the best job.
This guy Dave owned the lot. So Chart House didn't own the lot. So he owned the lot. And so I got hired by this dude, Dave, who was a total burnout surfer as well. And he owned a handful of lots around Malibu. Real smart guy, just loved to surf. So all he had to do was just kind of check in on his lots, get his money picked up. So the way he did it was we had a set number. His approach was, I don't charge for parking. He's like, so it's up to you guys. I need $80 a night. Everything else on top of that is yours to keep. He's like, so as long as he goes, and look, if it's if it's a slow night, just let me know and we'll just split it 50-50. And so he was super cool. So we never shortchanged him or anything. We were like, oh, it was a slow night and kept more. No, I made good money. Like I would get out of there probably with, and this is, 1991, 92-ish. I would get out of there with like $50 in my pocket.
Yeah. I mean,
a night. It was great.
Aside from being a waiter, valet parking to me is one of the most lucrative, easiest, funnest jobs.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Yeah.
Bartending too, but
I mean, usually you're working for surfers and people that, if you're going to college or whatever, it's a night. It's a night gig, unless it's like a Sunday weekend brunch type whatever. But
which even then, it's like I don't want to be in the wave.
But you're not putting in.
He didn't own the lot. He owned the service that took care of.
So he rented the lot from the Chart House. Like that's what it was. So it was his company, not I didn't.
It's
work
almost
for Chart
like
House.
having a pool route. You service the pool, but you
just service it. Yeah, exactly. Service the lot, and so
what a great.
Yeah, it was great, and he made bank, and then he would also use it as the parking lot for the Getty Museum when it was there in Malibu.
Yeah.
So and he would run a shuttle out of there. So I did that.
Isn't it crazy how amazing these businesses are, and they're so fucking simple, but they're so lucrative?
Just you recognize what's needed. What do we? He was a dude that was like, what is needed?
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you want to deal with valet's chart house? I'll do it for you. Just
Yeah.
let me use the lot.
Can I get
I'll
a
run it.
lot by Staples or by Dodger Stadium or by
right.
SoFi, whatever.
Exactly.
So those.
There's that one across the street from the Forum and SoFi, and I can't even imagine what that dude makes. It's just that he stacks cars. You can probably stack 100 cars in there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a fortune.
We just paid $70 at the USC game.
Isn't it crazy, dude? It is crazy.
$70, and there's some
parking.
and it was just same thing, like garage just piling us in, like right by the freaking school, and you're like, fuck.
So you come out to Pepperdine. What was your major?
Poli-sci and speech. So it's basically a pre-law major. So, kind of the way I laid it out was I was able to get 2 degrees because some of the classes overlapped. And so I was like, well, I think I can thread this needle. So I got out with 2 degrees, one in speech communication and one in political science.
So what does it take to become a lawyer, litigator?
Right. So then I would have had to have gone to law school. So the idea is you get your undergraduate degree, you take the LSAT, law school.
LSAT gets you into...
Yeah, that's like the SAT for law school.
Okay.
And then you try to get into, basically, if you want to be a politician, you've got to get into like one of the big 5 law schools. You need to get into Harvard, Yale, Michigan's a big one. Like there's certain law schools that you want to get into in order to try to get on that track to clerk for a Supreme Court justice or a senator or something like that.
And that's what you thought you were going to do.
That's what I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
And then I realized...
Because doctors and lawyers, I mean, doctor obviously is a totally different thing, but the steps to becoming a doctor, it's like
it's crazy.
8 to 10 years after college that you finally become a doctor.
Med school, residency, and then if you're going to be a specialist, it's... my best friend's an orthopedic surgeon. And actually, he's one of the guys that really got me into surfing. And it's crazy to... and when I was working, he's like one of the best orthopedic surgeons around anywhere. He's incredible. He went to Stanford, like super bright guy. His name's Andy KROQ, and he works at St. Jude. But he lives in Surfside. He, grew up in Surfside, born and raised. Coolest guy.
Andy KROQ.
Yeah, and
doctor.
So if you get exactly. If you ever get injured, he did my knee. But for surfers especially, he's a surfer, so he can put it like, okay, I know he knows what waves do and what surfing does. So other doctors would have told me to stay off my knee for God knows how long, and he's just like, you could probably go out, surf the river, longboard only, in about a week and a half. You're good. Like other guys would be like, stay out of the water for 6 weeks. You can't, you know what I mean? So anyway, but I remember when he first got out from his residency, or he was doing his specialization at Stanford, and he became a resident at Van Nuys. We were living in the Valley, and I can just remember how hard they were scraping by, man. Like it was like they were, like he and Laura, they were scraping by, and their kids are the same age as our kids, and so that's how we got to be real good friends. But I just remember thinking, like, dude, this guy freaking graduated. He played basketball at Santa Clara. I was like, this guy is freaking brilliant. He's got med school, Creighton Med School, Stanford, residency or whatever, and here he's just living in Van Nuys, and he's in like $500,000 of debt. And then you become a surgeon, and it's recession proof because we all act like idiots and tear our limbs up, and he gets to fix them.
I mean, it's the long game, you just these guys are obviously in it to, they're so smart and they have a passion, like hopefully, and that's their niche.
And he's like one of the rare doctors. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but one of my college roommates, one of my best friends, is also a surgeon, and he's actually the head surgeon at USC now for the football team and stuff. Dr. Gamrat, Seth, was my college roommate, brilliant guy, as they all are. But both of them, like, have you ever noticed doctors are weird? Like they're socially awkward because they don't interact with society like the rest of us do. Like
stare at books.
They stare at books. They're in school till they're 30, and so they have this weird social awkwardness typically. And like, thankfully, these two dudes are just like the coolest guys. Totally normal, and it's really rare.
Doctors, not to degrade them, but they're nerds.
Right.
Most of them, I would say 80% of them are like introverts that they don't look at things
It's different.
the same way
Yeah.
as a normal like run of the mill person does.
Yeah.
But
Because
this guy was a basketball player. You know, when you're on
Yeah.
a team with sports, and you
Yeah.
know, like if you're, you know, you play sports,
Exactly.
it helps.
He was one, and same with
Social
Seth.
interaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
but
So
but I mean, you gotta hand it to these doctors because they sacrifice so
it's
much
nuts.
to do what they do.
yeah, you don't start making money till you're 30,
Yeah.
and all you do is dig yourself further and further into debt. You know, it is.
But-
It's crazy.
Not
So
only
crazy.
do they put their life work into it, they are strong enough and confident enough to do it.
Yeah, put people's lives in your hands. Like
That's
it's
the
a different
fucking
deal.
gnarly part
Yeah.
about it.
Special
You're
breed of
like,
people, man.
It is.
like
It
you know,
really is.
you practice and you get good at something. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, I could do this.
Right.
Like, I could fucking cut that person up, and I'll sew him back up.
Yeah.
And he's gonna walk out.
Yeah.
He's gonna be better in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like think about all the stuff that goes wrong, and you're just, you know,
But they're it's
'Cause
just
you-
repetitive, and they're just embedded in 10, 15 years of seeing that and doing that and watching, you know, that's why.
Right.
Like, you know, for us, like, I couldn't be a fireman or a doctor. Like,
Yeah.
that'd be like, that's fucking gross. But some people just have the
But
knack.
Right.
putting people's lives in your
Yeah.
like saving people is one thing, and then losing some is another,
Yeah.
right?
They're-
And to be able to be fine with that,
Yeah.
you know, like
Hey, you guys
that's
seen that?
fucking gnarly.
You want the blue shirt or the black shirt? How many hats do you want?
Right.
Like,
Right.
hey, once you add on this button, now this has been doing really killer.
Hey,
Like,
that's
Yeah.
the real struggle.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
the real struggle.
Exactly. That's how you get paid a premium.
I
You
gotta,
know?
I gotta tell one quick doctor, this brain surgeon I met at the airport in at John Wayne.
Uh-huh.
I think I was at a party at a hotel the night before, and this guy was at the same party, or not same hotel, because he's like, "Hey, were you part of that surf party?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Were you there?" He's like, "Yeah." And then we start chit chatting, and he was on his computer, and I'm like, "So what do you specialize in?" He's like, "Oh, I'm a brain surgeon." And I'm like, "Really? I've never met a brain
Right.
surgeon." He's like, "Yeah, you know, it's blah 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 blah." And I go, "What are you working on?" He's like, "Oh, I'm setting up my playlist for
Yeah.
a procedure,
Yes.
right? Because they have it all
It's
timed
a
out."
big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was making a playlist. I go, "What music do you listen to?" And he goes, "Metallica."
yes.
Isn't that wild?
And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like
The
you
beats, the sound,
listen
the
to
rhythm.
Metallica?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, you know,
I
don't
love that
know
guy.
what-
If I
Yeah.
need
Right.
brain surgery, I call
Exactly.
him.
I was like
Exactly
blown
right.
away. It's like Metallica,
Yeah.
Master of Puppets, and
Isn't that wild?
yeah. I was just like, that's like thrash music. And
It's
you're
weird to
working on
think,
a
right?
brain.
Yeah.
Like, what the
There-
fuck?
Skulls open, brains
Yeah.
exposed.
Like, you can't even have coffee, no shaking. Like,
Right.
when you're
Yeah,
listening to
it's
that.
wild.
Just-
And
That's
he's like,
amazing.
"Yeah, you know, I program my music, and when I know that what's coming up, I know that I should be at this part of the procedure."
That's great.
And I'm like, "Bro,
Yeah, dude.
you've blown my mind."
Next
surgeon."
level.
Yeah. That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
So you're living in you're Malibu pretty much, Pepperdine.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted to surf growing up
Yeah.
from skateboarding.
Yeah.
Have you ever surfed prior to moving out to California?
No, had never surfed prior.
Never like on the lake, behind a boat,
Nothing. Like water skiing,
water skiing.
hydrofoiling,
Snowboarding's the only
snowboarding,
skateboarding.
skating.
Yeah, frozen water.
So I think like, oh, it's gonna be easy. It'll just be this super easy transition. It's skating or snowboarding on water. No
Right.
big deal.
19.
So I am 18.
18.
Yeah, and the first time I went out was a guy that lived in the dorm, Dave, who had a shortboard, and like and it just
Not a
crushed.
great learner.
No, not great. So we went to County Line, and
Summer?
and I'm just summer. Yeah, I think it was second semester. And I wish, it's so stupid of me looking back on it now, just like how much better it could have been. Two of the guys that I met, like straight out the gate, as soon as I showed up, just the best guys ever, Ethan and Enoch. And I don't know if a lot of people listen in, they probably know Enoch Harris. He's like so Enoch and I went to Pepperdine together.
What?
So he's probably the first guy that I met when I walked
One
on
of the best
campus.
surfers around too.
And just the raddest guy ever. And he and Ethan would constantly try to get me to come out with them and be like, dude, his brother. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
They both went to Pepperdine.
They both went to Pepperdine at the same time. And so
poor parents.
Yeah. So I wish I would have taken him up on it. It's funny, dude.
We had Enoch on the podcast.
Oh, have you? Yeah. Right on. He's the best freaking guy. He was the best guy in college, man.
Did he introduce Arnett sunglasses to you
Yeah.
back then?
I don't remember
It started yet, but
I can't. Yeah, he hasn't started Arnett yet. I don't think he.
I think he was high school and then he went to college and then he went to work for him.
Yeah. So he had not done. I'm trying to think. Did I get Arnett's when I was in college? He might have.
Yeah.
He very well might have.
Might have been right then.
Yeah, it might have been like right at that time. Yeah. So Enoch and I went to school together, and I should have taken him up on, for whatever reason I didn't. I was too busy partying and just like, holy shit, this is amazing. I'm free and I can party and I don't have to work. You know, it was kind of one of those
You're not
things.
shoveling snow.
Exactly. So I just like, all I wanted to do is party. Go to school and party. A freshman year,
Get
right?
the freshman 15.
Exactly. Just.
Did you join a frat?
I did, yeah. So I joined basically kind of like the surfer punk rock fraternity, Phi Zeta Chi, and
there's a surfer punk rock fraternity?
Kind of, yeah, pretty much. It's the Misfits, like people
like sport. You know.
Yes, like when it's a group of people that showed up at Pepperdine and did not know what Pepperdine was, did not realize it was a super Christian school, and like it was just like, holy shit, we need to find our people. And so I love the Grateful Dead. It was a ton of Deadheads. Phi Zeta Chi. Phi Zeta Chi. Yeah, the Phi Z and then the X.
Dude, we're gonna have to incorporate that in the late night with Chalky, like Phi Zeta Chi,
right,
bitches.
Exactly. So but it's funny. So like because we didn't have fraternity houses. Obviously, it's Malibu, but like the house they had, the Phi Zeta Chi house was in Point Doom on Blue Water because they had a key. Because you got a key.
Wow.
So that's what our house was. It had the key to the gate. And so anyway, so my friend Dave, who lived in the dorm with us, we'd go to County Line. I'd try to surf. I'd fail miserably. We'd go eat at Neptune's Net and then, try it again over and over. And finally, my last attempt, I sliced my foot open on one of the fins and had to go to, and it's one of those indelible moments. I had to go to the ER to get stitched up. I ended up getting 12 or 14 stitches or something in my foot. And as I'm sitting in the, I'll never forget it. I'm sitting in the ER, waiting. They got it all kind of bandaged up while I'm waiting for the doc to stitch me up. And this kid is in there, with a pompadour, and he's got this super tight black shirt on, and he's holding this collection of maybe 4 or 5 roses. And he looks at me and he goes, "No, what are you in here for?" And I was like, "Oh, I cut my foot surfing." And because we didn't go until later that night because we're idiots, right? So my foot would not stop bleeding all day. And I'm just changing the Band-Aids and stuff. Wow. And finally my buddy's like, "Dude, we got to get you to the hospital. You got to get that shit stitched up." So I didn't go until 8 at night or something because it wouldn't stop bleeding. So
because you were drinking.
Exactly. Drinking and partying. Whatever. Oh shit, it's still bleeding. What do we have? Whatever, man. So yeah, so it's late at night. And it's 10 at night, 9 or 10. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, "Oh, I cut my foot open surfing." And I was like, "What's going on with you?" He's like, "It's the worst night ever. I was at the Morrissey show and I got in and I was in the front row and there was just so much pressure and they were just pressure on my chest." And I just listened to this dude and he's like, and then I remember he just goes, "I didn't even give him my flowers." I'm just like, oh God.
Is there for a broken heart?
I don't know. So I'll never forget the day I sliced my foot open.
Groupie.
Exactly. I'll never forget the day that I had to get my foot stitched up. Really because of that dude. I was like, this is the funniest thing ever. So that turned me off from surfing. So I was like, no, dude, this ain't for me.
Back to this fucking pompadour guy.
Yeah.
Was he hurt?
I have no idea. Like the way he described it is he was just like, I was in the front and I couldn't breathe and there was so much pressure. And I just remember the way he was talking. That's what he sounded like. He said, there's so much pressure on my back and I was pressed against the stage. It was terrible. And I was just like,
nobody's ever helped me.
It was too good.
Morrissey, I didn't give him his flowers.
Yes.
I bet that's
People
a fucking
who
really
like
good
Morrissey,
concert
though.
You know what's funny? It probably I'm sure we'll get to it.
I mean,
but I was in
I'm a
the
big
music
fan of
business for a
music, too,
while.
like,
But fuck Morrissey. Like I can't begin to tell you how much I hate that guy.
Dude, skateboarders love Morrissey.
Oh, I love Morrissey. Don't
the
get me wrong.
Smiths,
Love
right?
the Smiths, love the music, but I worked in, I wasn't just on the morning show. I was a music director at KROQ for a while. I worked for record companies for 12 years.
Before we get to that.
Yeah.
So
Sorry. But I was just going to say, he's a nightmare. So anyway.
You got off surfing because
So I was like, because of that. I was like, it's just not for me. I'm not meant to surf. It ain't my
first
thing. Yeah.
go.
It was just
Bad
not.
attempts,
So I
yeah.
just wrote it off. So that was it. So that was, live in Malibu, don't surf, but was friends with everybody, and appreciated it and had always wanted to kind of get after it. And that just was it for me. Totally turned me off.
Did you bring your skate? Were you still skating?
Yeah, was still skating, was still snowboarding, was still doing all that.
Yeah.
But surfing
was that last
It's like I really wanted to do it, and it just
it's the hardest thing to learn.
And I think it's as I taught my kids how to surf and stuff, you realize, oh no, you just need someone that knows how to teach you, or else it is such a miserable experience.
Plus the equipment that you start
exactly
on.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, that and starting in a
short-
cruiser wave versus something that's going to thrash you and not,
Yeah.
it's a good
I mean,
experience.
That's the biggest misnomer of like being a frother, like, or a kid or anybody who's really excited to learn surfing, and they don't get the best advice, and they always start off on like, oh, that's a surfboard, like
Exactly.
this is 6 foot and I weigh this much, and
Right.
you have to learn on a longboard.
Exactly.
You have to
100%.
learn on a thicker used board
100%.
that, is going to help you. It's more stable and not like a little rice rocket.
100%.
So
And that's what I was on. It was a nightmare.
And the right type wave too,
Oh, County Line was big. It's heavy. It's, back the days that we were going out, it was big,
Yeah.
and it was just, and I think people don't realize, oh yeah, dude, just sit in the whitewash. You'll be fine. Just get a little momentum, learn how to pop up. No, I'm gonna get this thing right in the peak and get in the pocket and we're gonna be good. And it was like, no, disaster.
when you think we talk about this a lot when we talk about learning how to surf, like it's so fucking, if no one's telling you what to do or giving you advice, watching somebody do it, you're like, oh, that looks simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
they put the board on the water and then they start paddling out. But sitting on the water, laying on top of the board, that's a lesson in itself. That's
100%.
an hour lesson. That's
100%.
That's a 2-day like learning experience.
100%.
Yeah.
And then the paddling, and then
there's
the duck diving.
Oh, God.
Well, you're not duck diving as a beginner,
Yeah.
but there's all those nuances of like how to properly not get worked and have a better time and not get like just worn out.
And even when you're 30 years into it, you're still getting worked.
Yeah. Exactly.
Dude, this
Gotta
morning,
pay the toll.
my Grammy's 8, and I was like, okay, we're out of the white water, we're trying to catch like little waves, we're at Blackies, and he's paddling too straight. I'm like, no, you got to paddle and try to just go at it just a little bit of an angle, so it kind of shoots you into the wave, and you go straight, and it's like you can't turn.
Yeah.
And he got a couple where he like sloped into it, and it was just like. And he kicks out of the wave. He's throwing the shotguns and stuff. And I'm like, see, I told you, like, you go straight, you're gonna pearl, or you're just gonna go straight.
Surfing is fucking gnarly, so hard.
It's so
like
hard.
sitting on the board. I always say this, like, if you don't like figure out the sweet spot, you're always like falling.
Oh yeah.
That board squirts out.
100%.
Or you fall the side.
Just leaning in and pivoting to turn. Like it's like.
And then the gauging and like kind of the timing of like, okay, when should I start paddling for a wave? Like I mean, sitting in the whitewash is the key.
Yeah.
And letting the wave
100%.
take you.
It's so
and then
easy.
Stand up in the whitewash.
And it's funny, like the thing I always say to people, because I have a bunch of friends who come out from the Midwest, and they're like, dude,
Take me surfing.
Yeah.
Good
I'm like,
surf
"No
kid."
problem." And so I would always say the same, like when they I can tell when they start giving me a little bit of attitude. I'm like, hey dude, let me put it to you this way. Think about when you first started skating.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have been able to grab that skateboard, pushed around,
Yeah.
done all your turns, 180s, 360s?
Yeah.
It's like, that's what you think you can do. Like,
Yeah.
you have this in your mind that you're just going to get in the water and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to skate like you did after you did it for 6 months.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not easy. I was like, you're going to stand on the skateboard and we're going to teach you how to push and how to balance so you don't fall over and the board doesn't kick out from under you and you crack your head on the cement. Like, that's what this is. It's no different.
Surfing looks pretty graceful and looks kind of smooth and easy and
Yes.
stuff, but it's like that's the final like
Output
of like everything else that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's the end result of everything else of
100%.
positioning and paddling and catching and turning and having the right sweet spot on the board. And all those people you're watching, all your
Yeah.
friends are like, they've been doing this every day,
Yeah.
all the time.
Exactly.
And the guy that's not, the guy that's purling over there,
Yeah.
he's like you, just learning.
Exactly.
skateboarding. I mean,
It's hard.
it's hard, but it's so much easier to learn. Because it is.
Yeah.
You're on the ground that's not moving.
Right.
Like
It's not
you're
exactly.
the one that's going to make this
Exactly.
move. It's not the ocean
Right.
moving, and
It's not finicky, and it's not going to change.
Yeah. I mean, you're in control.
Yes,
Where the ocean is in control.
exactly right.
And the thing about skateboarding too, like, it's so awesome. Anything that you like doing, once you hit a milestone, like you said when you were talking about skateboarding, like learning where to put your foot, and then coordination of
Right.
pushing, and then boom, you're sailing, right? And then one really cool about skateboarding too, that's like so stupid and easy, the tic-tacking, right?
Oh yeah,
And that's like where you're like
creating
oh,
momentum by
shit.
tic-tacking. Yeah,
Like when you start learning how to tic-tac, you're like, this is fucking
Yeah.
awesome. This is more like skateboarding. Like this is,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
oh yeah,
you get so hooked into that.
There's so many like nuances, like I said, like that just are so remedial, but yet they're so important in the
Yeah.
process of learning and like getting comfortable.
right. It's like anything. I mean, it's anything you do. You need reps.
Yeah.
You need reps.
So what was your next experience after taking some time off and
So I'm the nightmare, right? I'm a COVID surfer. So everything shut down. I live in Seal Beach. And
Wait, you didn't start until COVID?
I didn't pick it up again until COVID. So I
That's
just
crazy.
Yeah. So I started surfing again in 2019 because I was just like, well, I live across the street from the river. Everything's closed. They can't kick me out of there. Now they tried, but I just decided, all right, I'm gonna get back in.
Wow.
And ever since then, I literally surf every day. So I've surfed every day for the most part, unless something's come up. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'll surf probably 320 days a year, 350, 320, like
That's like a huge-
every day.
So COVID drove you back to surfing.
Back into the water because everything was closed, and
Yeah.
I'm not an inside person. Like, I need to be,
Yeah.
I'll go crazy. I get cabin fever. So I was
you're
just,
the first guest that we've talked to that's restarted surfing or started surfing because of COVID.
yeah. Oh, I'm definitely the biggest kook you've ever had on
No,
this
no,
thing.
no.
There's no question.
No, it's
It's
cool
not
because
even about that. Like,
Yeah.
because
we've never had that.
Yeah.
you
we've
know.
talked about how much COVID has helped our industry with
Right.
new participants and new people to the sport. Obviously, it wasn't new to you. You've been around it, but
Yeah.
it was it locked you into
Yeah.
this new lifestyle.
Yeah. Everybody, I think a lot of people in COVID were like, okay, well, I've got this downtime. What am I going to add?
Yeah.
What can I do? Like, let me figure out something that I can add to myself to better myself. And so for me,
Yeah.
it was, there's no one in the water. I need to be outside.
Yeah.
I'm going to go figure
Do
it out.
something healthy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's what it was.
But what I always tell people, you're like, oh, I'm the biggest kook, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, at the end of a wave, like the stoke you get on a wave,
100%.
like your ability, that high, that rider's high, even though it's totally different than what, I would look at you and like, yeah, he's just kind of fucking kooky,
He's a kooky guy, yeah.
But you kicked out and that smile, like,
Right.
I would, for me to get that, it's a totally different experience, but at the same time, we're getting that same thing.
100%.
Like
100%.
You're like the exhilaration, that fulfillment, that
Yep.
ride, that fun, everything that is why you're doing it, and why it's so freaking awesome.
It's the same reason why we do it.
Yeah.
It's the same reason, even though the caliber is different.
But we're just
Doesn't
better
matter.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately it doesn't matter, and that's where it's like I see people like, oh, that kook. It's like, dude, you don't know how fucking how stoked they are right now.
Right.
You don't know what's going through their mind.
100%.
It might be in your eyes like something that's just like it doesn't matter. So
Right.
So
So before then, you were golfing.
Golfing.
What was your pastime? Golfing.
Golfing, yeah. So I belonged to Old Ranch. We used to live really close to Old Ranch before we moved to Old Town. We lived closer over there, right by the country club. So we would go there, or I would go there probably like 3 times a week. I'd play golf. I had a group of guys, super cool guys that we'd play with. Dawn Patrol, which was great. It works perfect with surfing. So just because with my job, I do afternoons on the radio, so I've got to do everything early. So Dawn Patrol golf, and I would even do run golf. Like my friend Doug and I, we would jog the whole 18, 6 miles, and we'd get it done in under 2 hours, and just run the course as a workout and play golf, and like got super into it. But then I just sort of realized, why am I in such a bad mood every time I get off the course? Because it's just a
mind fuck.
It really is. Like you can never perfect it. When you start getting good, because we always play for money, like when you start getting good, you really get screwed gambling because you're just in that really bad spot where you're like a 7 or a 9 and you're playing with guys that are 14s and you're giving strokes and you're like, dude, I'm losing like $200 on a round. I can't do this.
You're always drinking.
And you're drinking and you're just miserable. And so I realized golf is not healthy for me. Like I need to get back to a place. And that's what I always tell people about surf. Like, dude, what happened to you? Yeah. Like you surf every day. And I was like, yeah, you have any idea like how stoked I am when I get out of the water? Like I'm in the best mood.
Yeah.
I've set my day and my course for my day. And like, I just had the most amazing hour and a half. And I'm sure a million people have said it and you guys know it, but I believe it, man. Like salt water does something to you. There is something in that ocean that it does something to your soul, to your being. And I said, it's completely changed my life. Like
I think it's getting off the ground and in the water and the fluidity.
Yeah.
And just like, I think there's a bunch of things.
Yes.
It's a culmination of like a bunch of things.
It's the energy of the earth.
You kind of like drop everything off mind a little
Right.
bit.
There's no phone.
You're so focused on like catching waves or just enjoying what's out there, and then, I always say it's the best non-workout you'll ever get,
Exactly.
Like if you're not catching a lot of waves and it sucks, just do a lot of paddling and be like, oh, at least I got a good workout.
Yeah.
So you decide to surf again.
Uh-huh.
What equipment did you start on?
So I started on a SUP because originally I was just going to paddle around to get a workout. So that's what I started on, was this giant ass Jody. You probably know Jody from Surfside. So Jody set me up. Yeah. So Jody sets me up on this tent. Well, my friend Andy, the doctor, gives me his 11-foot SUP. He's like, just go paddle around, figure out how to balance. I think kind of his idea was, if I can just get you out there, because no one was out there to help. Nobody else. I was there by myself. Like literally, I'm in the middle of the ocean. There's no one else out there. It's COVID. Like I think people were still not sure, like, can I go into the water? I don't know. Yeah. And so I was like, whoops, all right. So I took this big 11-foot SUP out, and then I talked to Jody. She's like, I can get you something. So she gets me a SUP to get on. And so like, that's what I learned on, was this 10-6 SUP was my first thing. And then, you know how it is, like, that's the other great thing about surfing. It's like, it's just such a unique community where it's this community of for the most part, I think, of helpers. Like, you meet people that just want to help you, that are stoked that you're stoked.
You're lucky you had helpers. There's definitely people that would have said, hey, what the fuck are you doing
Exactly. But I was always very conscious. I think because I did it before, I kind of knew the rules, and I always stayed out of people's way. And like, I became sort of like, the way I looked at it was, all right, well, I'm not good enough yet to get in their way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna help them. And I would like call out waves. I'd be like, hey, next one, shit like that. And people were into that. They're like, hey, this guy's super cool. Like, he's not taking any waves. He's letting me know there's a bigger wave coming. I'm going to wait. And like, I'm getting a set wave now. And so I think I made friends sort of that way in the wave, and that's when Rob Colby, who's a good friend of mine, when I was supping, he's like, "What the fuck are you doing on the sup?" And I was like, "Well, so I injured. I don't know if you can see it. So I blew up my shoulder, snowboarding. So like I have no muscle on my back. Like it totally destroyed nerves in my AC joint. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, didn't mean to get you to lose your appetite. So
wow.
So it's hard for me. Like I don't have as much strength in this half of my body.
Atrophied because of the nerves.
It totally atrophied because of the nerves, and so." Rob's like, "Why aren't you surfing?" I was like, "Well, it's hard for me to paddle with this, with my left arm. And so the sup, it's easier. I can use the paddle and I can leverage it. And he just goes, there's a girl that has no arm." I was like, yeah. He's like, she goes like,
give it up to Colby to just fucking put things in this.
Right. He's like, she has no arm, right? So you're telling me you're in worse shape than her? And I was like, that's a good point. So
what
that's
did
when
the 5 figures say to the face?
Exactly. So as soon as he said that, I was like,
right.
It's a great point. And that's when I just started prone surfing, and I was like, all right, fuck this up. And I just started on this 9.4. Like you said, old beat up log that my buddy got when because he's a liquor guy, and so he made these surfboards for Stoli, and so he let me have this 9.4 single fin, and that's and then I got a Wave Storm, and I was like, they were like, oh yeah, dude, get a foamy, get a shorter foamy, that'll help you get used to it. And so I just kind of was for the most part self-taught. There were a couple guys out in the wave. This guy Matt, who's a Navy guy, super cool river guy, and he really helped me out along the way. And then after that, after I kind of had the basics, it became this just obsession of, okay, I need to get better. I need to figure this out. And
it's super addicting.
Yeah. And
surfing
so
is a hell of a drug.
Yes, it is.
And so that became my thing. So I was able to, whittle my way down to now have. And I mean, look, it's like when people see me surf and they're just like, wait a minute, you started surfing when? I was like, well, yeah, but remember, I surf every day. Like, so for the majority of people who surf for 20 years, I probably surf more than they have, just because I'm able to get in every day in the morning. So, I feel pretty good about sort of what it's become. Like I have my longboard that I love, my 9.0, and it's a great river board, and it's probably between like Sano and PV Cove and the river and those spots, those are probably my favorite days when they're big and they're really good. I don't know if there's anything I enjoy more, but Rob was able to introduce me to Tim, and he's made me some really cool like this 7.6 that got me to start moving my head off from the longboard to, okay, now let's kind of start working the wave a little bit more. And then Rob put me into a 5.8 Mankind, and so now I'm kind of working that and trying to figure that out. And so it just became this, it's just this obsession that I'm trying to get it all right, and driving up and down the coast and trying different waves. And
well, the thing is, there's different days for different equipment too.
100%.
So, you might ultimately I'm trying to progress and get a smaller board and work the waves, but there's a lot of days where it's like, it's not really meant for that type of board.
Yeah, like this whole week at the pier has just been great. It's been fun. So I've been on that 5.8 all week, and it's just been firing. So, but then at the same time, like I was this close to going to PV Cove today because it looked like it might be the right angle, and I was like, I think it might work. Maybe I'll go up there. And it's just like I said, it's the best non-workout you can do. Between that,
for sure.
So let's go back to college.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a lawyer.
Yeah.
What was the fork in the road?
Yeah. So this, I think, it again goes into a big mantra of mine on life and success, and that's say yes to everything, treat people with respect, be honorable. People that you may not think, or maybe they can't, they aren't going to pull you up and help you become better in your careers. You never know, you still treat them the same. And so I was working in the admissions department because that was part of my scholarship where I had to give X number of hours to Pepperdine. And there was a girl who worked there by the name of Katie, and she knew I worked at the radio station and said, hey, you're into music, right? Yeah, well, my boyfriend.
Hold on. you already started working at the radio station?
So I'm working at the
School.
KMBU.
Okay.
So she's like, hey, you're working at the radio station here. You're into music. Yeah, well, my boyfriend works for Polygram and they're looking for interns. Would you be interested in that? And so I was like, fuck yeah.
Was that radio?
Record label.
No, the radio station, was that part of part of the deal?
No, that was just a club. It was like you could apply. And so I did the Grateful Dead hour at KMBU my freshman and sophomore year. And it was that whole, everybody had told me my whole life, hey, you've got a radio voice, you should get into that. So I was like, hey, you know what, I'll try it out, see what happens. Maybe I like it.
So that was your first...
First job on radio was
Okay.
college, Grateful Dead hour. And so she then got me that gig at...
You're listening to Mark, and it's 12:06.
well, that's what's funny, like, you know, that's
started
kind of,
developing the
I had the
shtick?
reads, and I was
Yeah.
like, you know, but it was, like...
Is it
so,
PG?
Huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Total PG.
Yeah, for the
Grateful Dead, though, is...
So that was super easy.
Yeah.
It was just like, you know, and back then, you know, I had a handful of tapes. I didn't have a lot, you know, because it was 91. So it was hard to get your hands on tapes back then. Like now you can get any concert you want, you know, at the snap of a finger. But back then I'd be like, hey, here's, you know, this is I don't know, what, the Tinley Park, 89, because that was one of the shows I was at, you know, first set. That's it, you know, but so Katie was like, hey, my Polygram's looking for interns. Are you interested? I said, yeah. So I got an internship at Polygram Label Group for 2 people.
I almost remember that.
PLG?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was this window of time when everything was consolidated under one roof called PLG. And so it was Island Records, Mercury Records, London Records. I think those were the big 3. Started with an A. I can't remember what it was now. There was another label, maybe Atlas or something. Anyway, there were like 4
Atlas.
labels under one group, and so I worked for
Zeppelin
them.
had a bunch of albums.
Yeah, I can't
albums on
remember.
Atlas.
I can't remember who it might not have been Atlas then, because it was a small little indie rock. They had Tonic, that was like their big artist that had a hit. But so I end up working for these 2 people, Vicky and Bill. Both have since passed. Awesome people, amazing people. And
Was it Hollywood or is it?
It was 40510, those white high rises.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Right there, those 3 white high rises. It was in there, and basically the first thing that I was tasked with was getting Vicky her cool milds, 2 packs. She smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I had to get them on my way in. She'd reimburse me. You know, they were like
Cool.
you know, $6.50 for the 2 packs. She'd give me $10.
Slims, menthols.
Exactly,
That-
menthols,
that's-
dude.
Yeah.
That logo and the name is
Right.
kind of like rad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
KOOL and the O's
We're interlocked.
interlocked. And
Yeah,
there's
in green.
that mint green.
Yeah, exactly.
You want a smoke because it's
Oh yeah,
cool.
and so that's what we did. We all just smoked, and so
Gotta
my
stay up all those weird hours. you know?
exactly. So my job was just basically a little like whatever they needed marketing wise. Like, hey, I need to send this out. Can you type me up something that says that you
No
give me the
pay 'cause you're
framework
intern, right?
because I'm an intern, yeah. But the pay was CDs, so they would give you. You figure out how to work it. So I would get CDs,
You
and
have
then
tons of promo.
you
Now
could
you
get
have-
so I could get a case of CDs, like the big ones, you know, like Melissa Etheridge
Now you're
record
slinging
would
those
come
at
out.
school.
So not even at school, you could just take them straight to the warehouse, and I would take them there, and they would give me like
Oh, you
The
sell
warehouse, music
$100
warehouse.
for remember the music?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the one. So I would take them there, and they give me $100 for a case of 30, and that's how I would get paid.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna use them for your radio.
Oh
station.
yeah, no, fuck no. So I don't make money. But yeah, so I did that 2 days a week, and then that's how I got the Kevin and Bean job. So it's funny. So I was, so Vicky says to me, "Hey, Kevin and Bean are looking for a full-time phone screener. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "What does that mean?" And she's like, "So you basically do nothing but answer the phones all morning show long, and if something interesting comes up, you tell the guys, hey, this is a call I think you want to take." Or they'll do phone-driven segments where they're looking for callers to talk on this particular topic, and you've got to weed through them and find people that you think will be good on the air. And so I was
A
like,
different kind of telecommunications.
yeah, exactly. And so, you know, they're selling me. I'm not selling them. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, you need to put me on the air because, and I get to figure that out. And so it worked because of the hours. You know, it was 5 a.m. to 10 a.m.
And this is what 92.
This is 94.
and it's still the height
93.
height of radio and KROQ.
Oh, huge. KROQ's huge. Nirvana, Pearl Jam have just exploded. So
Yeah.
this is grunge has just arrived. So
Wow.
it's Nirvana never like I remember being at KMBU when the program director walked in and said, "Dude, this record is going to blow your fucking mind." And I was like, "What record?" And it was Nirvana,
Was the Poor Man
Nevermind.
still there?
It was Poor Man was not there. Poor Man was gone. But Fig was there. So Fig was just the sweetest, as you know, just the sweetest guy ever. So Fig was doing our surf report. So Fig was there. Ricky Rackman was doing Love Line with Drew. It was post Poor Man.
Yeah.
Because Poor Man and Bean had that huge fight he got fired. So I'm like, well, yeah, they're paying $8 an hour. It's 5 hours that I can arrange my class schedule where I can take classes starting at noon instead of early. I can work Kevin and Bean and I wanted to be like, at that point I had decided I'm not going to be a lawyer. I want to get into music. And because, dude, people I was working for, they were making bank. Like they were freaking driving massive Benzos and living in freaking Malibu. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah, they're music executives.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I can do this. And I feel like I'm as smart as these people are, or I can at least figure this thing out. And I don't even
No
know
one
what.
has told you yet that your voice is...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they had.
They have.
But I wasn't, because the people at radio, they weren't making the kind of money that these music executives are making. But I was like, oh, whatever, I'll go do it and I'll figure it out. And so when I went to KROQ, I'll never forget the day that I got hired because I was at the Dead shows in Vegas at the Silver Bowl and I'm fried, completely fried.
On
and
LSD?
Yes. And I'm at
Yes, please.
and I'm at my buddy Mark's house because we're like the show isn't starting till later, but anyway. And this is pre-cell phone.
But we were anyway.
Yeah, this is pre-cell. But like whatever, let's just freaking
make
take it
really,
early.
really
Let's take it
big
early.
decisions.
I mean, this shit's gonna last 8 hours, so we might as well take it at noon. Who cares? So I can't remember. Like I must have had the foresight to ask him what his parents' number was in Vegas, because I got the call from Frank Murphy, who was the producer in Vegas, and I was like, just hello. And he's like, Matt, yeah, this is Frank. Hello, Frank. I think we're gonna hire you for the Kevin and Bean show. And I'm like, oh, that's great, man. All right, that's gonna be cool. And he's like, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm in Las Vegas right now. He's like, okay, could you start Monday? And I was, we had a show on Sunday, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there on Monday. So
what was this for?
this was for the phone screener for
phone
Kevin and
screener,
Bean.
okay.
So
That's so cool.
$8 an hour.
$8 an hour, answering phones, but I'm working with Kevin, Bean, Jimmy Kimmel, Adam Carolla, and KROQ is now, so Darcy is the music director, and I was just able to reconnect with her. So Darcy was the music director back then, Darcy Fulmer. She ended up running VH1 for a while when it first launched. And so it's the peak of KROQ. Kevin Weatherly is there as the program director, Richard Blade, Tammy Heidi, Jet the Fish.
Jet and Fish'em?
Yeah, exactly. They're all. It's like it's in Sluggo's doing nights, and Ricky
it was
and
KNAC and
KROQ.
KROQ, and then occasionally KLOS.
Yeah.
If you're like
Right.
running some classics, but
It's crazy because KLOS was older
yeah.
and more like classic rock.
right.
And then KROQ, I feel like they started in the 80s.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're still around,
Yeah.
right?
So the big they're
It's not new age. It's
Candace
kinda
is
like,
gone.
Yeah.
They're so the big turning point, there was this fork in the road, and
personalities
and
shows.
it was music though. So it was interesting for whatever reason. KROQ was rock of the 80s. It was the Cure, it was Depeche Mode, it was the Smiths, it was
The
New
rock
Order.
of the 80s.
And KLOS was Zeppelin, Pink Floyd,
Mm-hmm.
and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that hit.
And they got to pick.
And Kevin Weatherly, who ran KROQ, was like, we're going to own this. This is going to be something. I can feel it. I know it. And KLOS was like, I don't think this is us.
Yeah.
This might be KNAC. This is not KLOS. So they end up letting KROQ take ownership of the grunge movement. And KROQ went from being like this big to this big because they were now playing the most popular music in the world. And that's when they completely went into the stratosphere.
Which
So crazy.
surprises me because I feel like the new wave thing
Was big.
catapulted.
It was big, but
Yeah.
it was nowhere near as big as rock.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, because they pulled in all that. Because, the new wave stuff is very female. The dudes were into it, but not like, if you think about it, like if you go to a Depeche Mode show or a New Order show or a Cure show,
Yeah.
Mostly women.
it's a lot of
It was
women, you know.
Go-Go's and Talking Heads,
Right.
and it was a lot of just that.
Boingo.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that, if you think of KLOS, if you were to go to,
It was your dad's like real
Yeah.
classic.
dudes, Zeppelin, Floyd, that sort of
Stones,
Tom Petty,
yeah.
Rolling Stone, like it's
But
dudes.
The grunge thing is funny because when you listen to it now,
That could have been so KNAC
Totally.
too.
It should have been.
it could have been KNAC, but it's way more rock and roll.
Yeah, it should have been KLOS. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to have
Yeah.
walked away from that. That's what's so
Like
weird
Pearl
about it.
Jam and Nirvana,
Right?
that's like rock
Alice in
and roll.
Chains, like it was
Alice in
just,
Chains, yeah.
Well, Chili Peppers was on like.
Chili
that's
Peppers
like
was on
more-
Chili Peppers was on KROQ. But
It's
remember,
KROQ,
like
but-
Chili Peppers prior to the Rick Rubin record, to the Blood Sugar Sex Magic, was still very funky. Like even
Yeah.
Mother's Milk was still a
Really
pretty
funky.
funky record.
Super
so
like new wave punk.
yeah,
rock.
so that was just a Rick Rubin special, the Blood Sugar Sex Magic that moved them into that other
Another-
lane. Yeah,
yeah.
it took them out of that sort of rap rock because Anthony can't really sing, so he was always just kind of like a rapper,
Yeah.
But Rubin's like, no, we can make this work, we can figure it out, and
It's so crazy. Like how we lived through that, crazy
Era.
music era, and it was like just game changer. Like music was everything at that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about our age. Age
Oh, yeah.
was
Way
impressionable, but we went from like listening to our dad's parents' music, because that's all we listened to as your kid. And you become a teenager, it's like I'm my own person.
100%.
I gotta take my first, album was Devo, and then I don't even know what else was after that. But,
oh yeah, you find music that's
But-
yours,
but
and you want your parents to hate it.
yeah,
Like you don't want them to like your music.
but that was like Guns N' Roses, Metallica was already out.
Yeah.
Right.
Beastie Boys. It was like there was a lot
and
of
rap
new
was happening too.
Rap.
Rap was happening as
Yeah.
well.
and then it was fun. I mean, there was.
Yeah.
But okay, so
Yeah, there's a lot of different limbs on this tree. So
you're a screener,
yes,
and like you said before, it was either like there was a topic that you screened
Uh-huh.
for, or it was just like
so it's funny like that. I almost don't even think about I didn't even think about that job as my job when I was there. It was weird. Like I rarely think about screening calls because Kevin, like the great thing about Kevin and Bean were they didn't care what your title was. It was how can you help the show.
Yeah.
So if I could help the show by screen, great. Yeah, when it's time to do a caller-driven segment, I'm on the phones and I'm finding the right people, and they were like, "You're great at this. This is great. We don't get shitty calls and people that suck. This is."
Like
But
shock jock or like something that's super interesting.
yeah,
That, like drive.
and they weren't really shock jocks. There were a lot of caller-driven segments.
Yeah.
But Jimmy was just he's a saint, dude. He was just the coolest guy, and he's like he was always trying to find ways to get other people involved in the show. Like and you can see it with his late night show, right? With like Guillermo and Frank and like all these
Little segments.
these offshoot figures that just work there, but he wants to make them part of the show. That was always his vision on Kevin and Bean as well. He's like, all right, what can Matt do for us? Let's figure out how we can use him to make the show better.
That's awesome.
And so when I first started doing that, like Jimmy wasn't really a sports guy. I mean, he likes sports, but he just wanted to get on the air. Like he was a host in Palm Springs, and they were like, well, when they interviewed him for the sports job, they're like, you're too big for this. He's like, I don't give a shit. I'll do sports. Just get me on the air. That's all I care about. I need to get to LA. And so that's how I became Jimmy the Sports Guy, because he just wanted to be on the radio. And he used Jimmy the Sports Guy, as an opportunity to get a bigger role. So he would do sports, but then he would do funny voices and he would do weird interviews and things like that. And that's just kind of what he was able to instill in me, which is find the lane. Where is it? Figure out how you can help the show, and I'll get you on the air, and let's make that happen. And so when he left to go do the Man Show, it was just an easy transition for me to become their sports guy, because they were like, oh yeah, that's great. He knows sports. He knows our sense of humor.
I forget that KROQ even talks sports.
Yeah. Well, we only did it 5 minutes at the back end of the hour. So we would do it at 5:55, 6:55, 7:55. I would have that 5-minute window to do a sports report. But then I would also do voices and come up with segments in the post-show meeting.
Any commercial
like
reads
that.
and stuff? Like, no?
They would not let, back then it was weird. They did not let their jocks do commercials. Kevin Weatherly was opposed to that. But so while I'm doing that, Weatherly, who is the guy that runs KROQ, says, "Hey, I was one of the few young people that was there at the time." So he's just like, "What do you do?" And so he was a very smart guy, and he's like, "What do you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm at a college radio station, go to Pepperdine." He's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "We do these music meetings on Tuesdays. It'd be great if you could come in and just bring some music that you guys are all listening to." He's like, and you know what, if you don't mind, we'd love to, if you're all right with it, we'll send you home with, do you have a CD player? I was like, yeah, I got a CD player. He's like, yeah, I'll send you home with some CDs if you can listen to some stuff. This is what we're thinking about playing. I'd love to kind of get your vibes on it.
That's cool.
Maybe you could play it for some of your roommates and shit. He's a very bright, he's like, at that time, he's probably like, I'm a 35-year-old guy. What the fuck do I know what 18-year-olds? We're an 18 to 34-year-old station. I'm outside of the demo. I need to know what the demo thinks of this stuff.
Because they're getting just funneled with massive amounts of demos, and like you got to filter through and help.
Yeah.
And so I had like these 2 jobs there. So I'm working in the music department as well. And
now he's the most popular guy at the frat house.
Exactly.
What? I got the playlist.
Yeah. So you're doing the sports. It's only a 5-minute gig.
So this was just when I was the phone screener. So I didn't do this sports till way down the road. So right now I'm still in college. I'm the phone screener, but they've also asked me to be part of the music meeting.
Okay.
And so word starts circulating because we got something. We ended up getting something put on the air that ended up becoming really big, and so word started circulating in the music business. They're like, where did this come from? Who found this? And that's when I started to get to know all the music industry people, because they're like, you're the guy that put that on the air. And I'm like, not really, but whatever. Yeah. And so that's how now I'm in my senior year in college, and there's a number of people that are interested in hiring me to be a promotion guy for their record label, because they know that I now have this in with Kevin and with KROQ, and we want to bring him on our label so we can get our records played.
That's so radical.
Here you are, a lobbyist.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, you're a music lobbyist. That's
so
what
wait,
promotion
what was the band or song?
It was. I hate doing this, but because there's so many people involved, and it was such a small. Like my role in this is this big, right? Like
you're
this
one
big.
of probably 100 stations that.
For the purposes of this podcast, you were the genius.
I wasn't though, but I really wasn't.
Everyone said no.
This is where
Matt Money Smith.
This is where money came into play. This is where it landed. You made the.
So my friend Joe Dugan.
Joe Dugan?
Do you know Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dugan went to college with me as well, and so
you know Joe Dugan.
So Joe flips me a Sublime CD, and he's like, "Hey, dude, these guys are huge in Long Beach. You should play it." And so,
you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. So
wow.
I took
Joe Dugan introduced,
told me about 40 Ounces to Freedom, and I then at KROQ, my friend Zeke was into it, Tazy was into it as well, and so we took Date Rape into the music meeting.
Dude, that was like as big as a music movement as like.
I can't believe that we just found out how Sublime made it
on KROQ.
But that it like
not just KROQ, but yes, through KROQ. But I mean, how many people all over the world love Sublime?
I mean, eventually, like the thing that I always tell people,
it's like a surf band.
Yeah,
a surf reggae
like
rap band.
They would have still made Sublime, and it would have been the fucking
you were just
biggest
at the
record
right
in the
place
world.
at the right time.
But the fact that we got Date Rape on, and then Badfish was able to get on, and you were able to play some of the older stuff was cool. That KROQ was able to kind of do that before what I got, and that
Joe
sort of stuff.
Dugan handed you the.
Yeah, I think he either I don't know if he gave me the CD. I may have already had it. And I think he may have been like, "Oh, dude, that band is fucking huge in Long Beach."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, right on." And so it's fun. You know what? I think he may have turned me on. It's funny. He may have turned me on to Eben. Was the song that I think that was the song that he really liked. And I think that's what it was. And then we ended up settling. Like I remember sitting in Zeke and I were sort of just brainstorming and trying to figure it out. Like, okay, because these music meetings are intense, dude. Like, you bring in a song and like everybody's looking at you. There's like 7 or 8 people, and you've got to sit through a 3-minute song. And if it sucks, they're just like, hey, these songs sucked. You think that's a hit? You out of your mind? You know, like, it's intense. So
it's interesting.
Blood on the line.
It's interesting that they went through that trouble.
So, well,
you know,
yeah.
like,
oh yeah,
it's kind of cool to.
You don't want people turning. It's so important. They don't want people turning the station. Like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
And switching, and
But
then
it's like
you lose it.
You know,
listener.
like you.
oh, it's a
really
science,
went,
dude.
You really went to that next step of like peer group.
Oh yeah,
What do you call it?
Peer group review.
yeah, it's all peer
Peer
reviewed.
group
Yeah,
review,
yeah.
and it's like, but that's what makes things great, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have a bunch of opinions.
So I'll
and
tell you. So here's a funny story, right? So we play the song. There's one female in the meeting. Lisa hates it. Obviously, she's like, "We can't play. This is disgusting." You know, and I can remember. Here comes my litigator. You know, in the background. I'm like, Lisa, the gentleman gets his in the end. You understand, right? This is a story of ultimately, if you listen through the whole song, of why you do not want to commit date rape. I mean, can you imagine? You know, this is what awaits you.
Yeah.
And she's just looking at me like, no,
Still.
it's called date rape. And I'm looking at Kevin. I was like, dude, it's a hit. He's like, it's a hit. So
Veto.
so he's like, put it on the air right now. I was like, right now? He's like, yeah. So Jed the Fish was out on vacation. John Frost was in for Jed. And John's this brilliant imaging guy. Do you remember the head detective? So John came up with the head detective and did all the imaging for KROQ. And so he's in for Jed. And so I give John the CD and he's like, what's this? And I was like, Kevin wants to play it. And I was like, but they say shit. And he's like, okay. He's like, can you tell me exactly the moment they say shit? And I said, yes. He's like, okay. So he puts it on, it's playing, and so it's on a CD, and it's in this Denon player. You put this in this little cartridge, you hit play, and it's playing, and he's got a vinyl. He's got a record and a record player. He's got the record player potted up. He's just looking at me, and you know, it's going, and he's got his hand on. He's got the record player's potted up on the board, and he's got his hand on the pot for the CD player. So you pull it down, and it'll go quiet. And he's got his hand on this record, and he's looking at me, and I'm just like, listen, the judge knew he was full. And I pointed at him, and he drops the CD, and he goes, and it's just like this little beat, this drum beat that he puts over the shit, and then he pots it back up. And he gave him 25 years, and he was like, cool. I was like,
wow,
that was incredible. And then phones exploded, became #1 song on KROQ within a week, and the rest is history.
I mean,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I love listening to Sublime. I don't like. I've never been a Sublime freak.
Yeah.
But when it comes on, you're
So
just
good.
like,
he was incredible. Bradley was
it's like
incredible.
a surfer's
Yeah,
summertime, right?
for sure.
Like you want to listen to that when you're drinking beers on the beach or fucking barbecue.
It's a modern day like reggae, hip hop, like you know, like it's a classic. Like it's never gonna go out of style. Like it's just got that beat flow.
So that was so that happened, and then I became really close friends with John Phillips, who managed the band, and then all these record labels they were like, how did you find this? Where did this come from? Because you know, it was just a little independent record. They hadn't signed their MCA deal yet. And
you won't believe me, but I saw them in a backyard.
Oh, I 100% believe you.
I saw them in Long Beach.
Yeah.
At my friend this chick that was like reggae. She was like one of the people that tried extra hard to be something. You know what I mean?
Right.
She was cool, but she was like dressed like ska. Had the trench coat, had the pins on her. And had to have the Vespa scooter. But
Oh yeah.
But at her house, she had Sublime.
Oh yeah. No, I've heard that from. I mean, that's how Joe was. Joe used to see him in the backyards all the time.
Dugan. Wow.
Yeah. So it's fun. Like that's what's so weird about my whole surfing thing is like I'm surrounded by all these great surfers, great dudes that wanted me to surf with them, and like for whatever reason, And I don't know where that would have taken my life. I know I would not have ended up here because I'm sure I would have got that same addiction that I feel now to it. And
Too
I would
early,
probably,
I would just curveball.
It would have
Things
totally,
happen for a reason.
exactly. So, but
Well,
yeah.
at least
so
it's
that's-
one of those sports that you can do till fucking the day you die.
Exactly.
So that was a big milestone.
So that puts me into the music business.
Yeah.
It's basically what happens.
And,
is-
and this record label
So
wanted you to be
yeah, so now I've got job opportunities as soon as I graduate. So there was actually a label that was hiring, Mercury Records was hiring. They needed someone in February, and so neither of my parents went to college. Well, my mom went but
You had to
dropped out.
graduate.
So I was like, hey, I think I'm going to drop out. I've got an opportunity to have a job. This is what I want to do. And my mom was like, absolutely not. You're getting your degree. I don't have a degree. It haunts me that I dropped out. I was like, but Mom, like, I don't need it. Like, I don't need, this is music business.
Why can't you be like Kevin?
Right, exactly. And so I was just like, oh, so
I'm gonna call Kevin. Kevin's gonna call you.
100%.
I mean,
Kevin's a
matter-
lawyer by now, by the way.
Yeah.
He's already graduated law school, and I'm just like,
No
oh.
matter how
Now,
nagging
are
parents
you-
are, moms
you
are.
looking?
You're deep glad.
Are you looking at the salaries of these?
They weren't great. So, your entry salaries, I think that job was like 32 G's, back then. It's pretty
Which is-
freaking great.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot more than I was making. So it might as well have been 700 grand a
college-
year back then.
College graduates now
Yes.
start at like
Yeah.
25, 30.
Yeah. So I was like, Mom, I got this out. So thankfully I didn't, because it would not have been the right job for me. So as soon as I graduate,
So you did stick with it.
so I stuck through, because I was graduating in April.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey man, I'm graduating in April. And just like kind of the way that they were like, no, we need it now. I was like, the fuck, dude, it's
Yeah.
2 months, easy.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, all right, this isn't for me. And thankfully I waited. So when I graduated, I had two options. I could go work for Maverick, which was the label that Madonna had just launched with Guy Osiri. Or I could go work for my old boss, Bill, who had brought me in as an intern at London. And I just felt more comfortable with Bill, and I went to work for London Records.
And who did they
And
have?
that was-
what
before-
their big.
Yeah.
Before that though, the 5-minute sports thing.
Yeah. Okay. So this is so just shove that aside, right? So Jimmy's still there. Jimmy's still at KROQ. When I graduate, he's still the sports guy at KROQ. I graduate. I get a job at London Records, which thank God I did, because it was the coolest freaking job ever. Because underneath the umbrella of London was FFRR, which was full frequency range recordings, and they were like all of the drum and bass. A lot of super cool hip hop artists. We also had Mowax, which was like DJ Shadow and a lot of that really cool stuff. And then they also had Slash. So Slash was West Coast based. London was in New York. So they originally wanted me to move to New York to work, which I was kind of into. I was like, you know what, fucking I'll go to New York. I wouldn't mind living in the city for a couple years. But instead they put me at Slash, which was super rad because I got to hang out with Bob Biggs, who started Slash, who's since passed. And for people that don't know, like Slash is an iconic Los Angeles label. So like our catalog at Slash is Germs, Los Lobos, L7, like it's freaking LX. It's LA punk rock. And like those people are coming in the office all the time to like get their residual checks and stuff. And it was so freaking rad. And Bob was the coolest guy. The office was on 3rd Street in Beverly, right across from El Coyote. So we would freaking go to work, and we'd get off work at like 4 o'clock because we were New York based. So the New York office would close at like 6, and by like 3:30 we're like, fuck it, we'd be at happy hour at El Coyote every day. And I ended up renting an apartment 2 blocks away, and I would just get shit faced after work every day with the guys in the office, and then walk home.
I couldn't imagine too, like all the freebie VIP concert shit
100%.
you could go
Because you're
to
just trading.
everywhere. I mean, LA is like
Yeah,
the epicenter of like
yeah,
touring,
every night.
Bar,
but just like
music.
venues like how many.
Every night. So, and you would trade out. Like
Yeah.
you would have an artist that someone else would want to see. Be like, hey dude, can you give me a pair of tickets? Yeah. And then you would get tickets to their show and their show and their, and you're all just
Bartering
constantly
system.
trading. Yeah, it's just barter. You're just trading tickets. So I worked there for 2 years. And then DreamWorks was founded, and they hired me when they opened.
DreamWorks?
Yeah. So DreamWorks.
Spielberg.
So it was David Geffen. So Geffen
Geffen.
did the music. Spielberg did the movies. Katzenberg did the animation. So when DreamWorks launched, they hired me to run their alternative rock department.
Dang.
So I went there, and when I was there is when Jimmy left, And that's when they were like, hey, do you think you could still do sports for us? Like just on your way into work, just do it one time a day, and then we'll replay it. And I was like, yeah, sure. So that's how I got back in.
Can I ask you, was it a big pay bump from?
Big time. Yeah. So my first job, I think I got $24,500 was my starting salary. And I think they bumped me up to like 30 my second year because we had a good year. We had the Portishead record that ended up going gold. And we had Rammstein, which had sold a shit ton. That sold a bunch of records. So I got my bump to like 30. And then.
Which is a big pay raise.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I'm living on my own. I have no family.
20% pay.
And then but I had student loans that I had to pay off that was like $300 a month. I had a car, I had insurance, all that shit, So I was still scraping
beer
by.
funds and burning out.
Exactly.
You're not cooking.
Not to mention the other stuff.
That's exactly right. The Armenian bakery stuff. So then DreamWorks, they basically doubled my salary. So so it was a huge jump. So that was
what car did you go get?
A Lexus.
Gotta look
like
the
that.
look. Gotta talk the talk.
Traded in the Subaru and got a Lexus.
So what was your job title at?
I was the director of alternative promotions.
Okay.
So basically my job was to get the records played on the radio. So I had
you're a lobbyist.
all of the KROQs of the nation. I had to go convince to play our records. So
in each region, they didn't.
So we had a regional.
Yeah.
So our regionals would do every format. So like our LA regional would do KROQ, KISS, KLO. They would work every station in town.
Okay.
I did all of the KROQs of the country.
Wow.
So I traveled a shit ton. Alternative radio. Yeah. And so I would, I'd go on tour with the bands. I would take them into the radio stations, do interviews with the launchers.
Who was your band?
We had a lot. We had we had let's see.
DreamWorks.
Yeah, DreamWorks was pretty big. So we had Papa Roach, Power Man 5000, Nelly Furtado, Jimmy Eat World.
Nelly Furtado with Fly Like a Bird.
Yeah, so Fly Like a Bird, I got played in Detroit.
Big.
We were the CIMX was the first station ever to play Fly Like a Bird. Because their transmitter was in Canada, so they had CanCon requirements. They had to play Canadian artists. So I was like, "Hey,
Canadian?
She's Canadian. She's from Toronto." So that was how we got her on alternative radio with "Fly Like a Bird," and then it just exploded out of there.
That's so wild.
Yeah, there's like a million. So then, who else? Jimmy Eat World, and Elliott Smith. Who I was really close with. Stuff that worked and stuff that didn't work, but it was, I feel bad. I'm just trying to think of all the
musicians.
Yeah, musicians. Buck Cherry.
Wow.
So we made Buck Cherry. So this is funny. So here,
Buck Cherry?
Buck Cherry was, I love the cocaine. You remember that song? Or the one that she's a crazy bitch and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they were great. So Buck Cherry used to be called Sparrow. And, everything's kind of, think of, a pendulum, right? So hair metal's not cool. It's all grunge. How long are we going, by the way? I feel like I've been talking.
No. I'm just making sure it's
great.
So, hair metal's the most uncool thing in the world during the grunge and the rap rock era. So this band in LA with Josh and Keith Sparrow, and Josh was a big surfer. They were like, fuck it, dude. We're going to bring back enough of these shoegazers and these dudes with their freaking stupid-ass ball-bearing necklaces and eye piercings. We're going to bring back rock and roll. Let's get some big-titty bitches out here and freaking sex, drugs, rock and roll. We need it in L.A. And so they started this band, Sparrow. And it caught on, man, and it was freaking really growing on the Sunset Strip. They were playing the Whiskey and the Viper Room and Roxy, and they got this huge following.
Motley Crue style?
Like Motley Crue style. People were like, dude, it's back.
Yeah.
Freaking rock and roll is back. Sparrow. And they had to change their name.
All about performance and about big titties.
Exactly. And so, he's wearing, he's got no shirt, leather pants, giant dick, just pinned right there against his legs, singing. And it's just like, dude, this is what it should be. This is right.
Yeah.
And so
you said they changed their name?
So they had to change their name to Buck Cherry because I don't know, someone else was Sparrow. They wouldn't give him the name. And so so when we put out Buck Cherry, we made surfboards for people because Josh was a surfer. And basically this is how this shit works, right? You get a budget to promote.
Yeah.
And Josh is just like, hey man, I want a couple new surfboards. I'm like, no problem, dude. We'll get
Who's
a
your favorite
budget.
shaper?
And so we went to Becker. And so we had Becker make us all these Buck Cherry surfboards with their, the logo was this tattooed woman kind of like sitting like this the whole stretch of the board. And so, in the meantime, we were like, all right, let's carve out some extras. So I ended up getting a 9.6 triple stringer custom Becker nose rider way back then. In addition, just pull that off the truck, put it in my garage.
Where'd this one other board
Exactly.
go?
Oh, they're not looking at it. They're just looking at invoices.
They destroyed it on stage.
Exactly.
They look
So there was a brief moment there that I was flirting with surfing again, where I started surfing a little bit because of that board for about 2 months. And I was like, I got to get back into this. And so,
Buck Cherry.
so Buck Cherry.
Again.
Yeah. So there was that. So I was doing KROQ and DreamWorks at the same time.
So how you literally went in before work and did
sports. I would do sports at 6:55, and then I'd be at DreamWorks by 7:30.
Are you writing, or are they giving you bullet points?
No,
or
I
you just like-
write it. I wrote it.
Okay,
I
so-
would write the sports report.
And it was just like national or LA based?
No, it's just the Kevin and Bean show.
No,
So-
just like the
I'm sorry.
sports teams. Like, what are you covering?
It was just local, but it was a Kevin and Bean lean. Like I
Yeah.
tried to find something funny every day. So I would do hey, here's what happened in this game, and then I would try to end it with something funny. That was sort of my formula.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I did, and there's no way I'd get away with it today, but I would find, my thing that I found that people really liked is I would get players who aren't the sharpest people in the world, and I would get their clips from the post game of them just saying something stupid or sounding stupid, and I would play those.
That's
And I would
easy.
make fun of them. It was easy.
Yeah.
And so
my back.
Yeah.
It's broken.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it was just like shit like that. And so I did that every day. And something that had always stuck with me that Jimmy had told me, he said, we're in Los Angeles. This is the entertainment center of the world. And this is before people that are young and that are listening. This is before podcasts. This is before streaming. He's like, people have to listen to something on their way to work. And KROQ is probably the number one station that the entertainment industry is listening to. So just know every single day you're on the air, it's an audition. You are auditioning for someone. So never half-ass it. Always make sure you think of that. That's your pressure. That's your drive is, hey, it could be whoever, Michael Bay, who's doing the next Transformers movie, and he likes your voice and you did something funny and now you've got a role in his film. So that always stuck with me. And that's how I got hired by the Lakers. Jeannie was a Kevin and Bean fan. So when Chick passed away and they wanted to reset and get younger on their broadcast, Jeannie told her dad, Jerry, hey, I really like this kid on KROQ. I think we should hire him to do pre-half and post. And the only other sports I'd ever done was 5 minutes on Kevin and Bean, but that's where she got me from.
That's the mind-blowing thing about what you just said. It's it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And who knows,
who's listening to those 5 minutes?
Listening and paying attention.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
To
a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it because we're sitting in this room right now. You have no idea who's going to listen to this. But someone,
But think of all the
A
millions
shitload of people.
That's right.
Hey,
That's what I mean.
Thousands of people are going to be listening to this show.
the millions of people that don't pay attention, right?
Right.
And it all boils down to one person that did.
RFK Jr. could be listening to this pod because he's a surfer and he's into surfing and maybe he subscribes. And
But-
next thing you know what I mean? That's
But I
it's just
love
the reality.
Yeah, I
So
love
Jeannie,
the 5 minute, that's
Yeah.
an audition every day.
Every
because
day.
you never know who's tuning in, who's tuning
Yeah.
out, who's not listening to you before. It could be first time
Right.
or somebody that's
but what an honor it is that Jeannie was the one that found you and put you on the table.
I mean, the guy that ran the station, Don, was the driving force behind it. But I think what helped, because the Lakers had to approve it, what helped was when he said, hey, this is the guy I'd like to hire. She's like, I know that guy. I like that guy. I love what he does.
Yeah.
And so that's how it came together. And Jerry was the coolest guy. He was always, Dr. Bus was always super cool to me. Whenever we'd have a chance to just kind of cross paths, we didn't do it a lot, but anytime we did, could not have been cooler.
So they hired you.
They hired me to do
post and
pre-half and post. They hired Spiro to do play-by-play.
Papadakis.
And no, Spiro Ditas.
Oh, Spiro Ditas, yeah.
Petros is my radio afternoon partner.
Okay. Spiro Ditas, I mean, his voice is distinct too.
So he does basketball and football for CBS and TNT now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because I remember him for the Lakers, and then all of a sudden I'm watching football and I hear him talking football. I'm like, oh shit, that's him.
I know that dude.
Yeah.
Can I hit the head real quick?
Yeah. We'll pause.
Does that happen a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
It's like a couple beers in. Let me sit right here or
Right. First right.
first right.
Yep. So you get hired on by the Lakers.
Uh-huh.
Pre-show.
Halftime, post-game. Yeah, so pre-game is it was it was stressful because I recognized how big the brand was, like how big of a deal, that job, the fact that I'm replacing someone who had done it for a long time, and Larry Barnett and did it completely different than how I would do it, because that is just not my personality.
And
the way
it's
that
in
he
front
did
of the camera.
No, this is a radio.
Just radio.
Just
okay.
radio. So kind of what I had settled on was,
And it was a side job, or is it
no, this was my full-time job. I left KROQ. At that time, I was the music director at KROQ, which means every single song you hear every single day was put there by me.
Not DreamWorks.
No, so DreamWorks sold to Interscope.
Okay.
I did not want to go work for Interscope. So when they sold, they bought out my contract, and I went to work for KROQ full-time as music director for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And that was basically all the music on KROQ you're responsible for. So that was a really fun job, some really cool stories. We could fucking do part 2 and do that. So then I get the Lakers gig, and sort of I settle on, okay, so the pregame, it's going to be straightforward, very professional. Let's set up the game. Let's get some interviews, get some quotes. Let's recap the game before, look around the league at scores, shit like that. Halftime, same thing. You only got like 5 minutes anyway. And then I figured post-game is where I can kind of express myself and kind of make it my own and sort of have my own personality and do what I think a post-game show should sound like. And I really fucked around. Like, we had a good time. And sort of what my approach was, and it really points out what an asshole I could be, was I would essentially make fun of people without them knowing, but sort of everybody else that's listening sort of recognizing what was going on is kind of how my approach was. And it was really fun. And
Can I ask you, was the Matt Money Smith incorporated in this?
yeah, so they wanted money. They wanted me to keep it because they were like, "Are you okay keeping it?" And I was like, I guess so. I guess I'm stuck with the name, which is weird, now that I'm 50 and I still have the name. It's just kind of like,
but the money part of it is so perfect for basketball,
and that's what's weird
and like that market,
it's still. It's very strange, but like that's what everybody refers to me as. The players, coaches, owners. Yeah. Like I work for the Chargers now. John Spanos, money. Yeah. What's up? Like that's just head coach Brandon Staley, money. What's up? Yeah. Like players, money. What's up? It's just that's.
Like, but it's such a.
It's just odd.
Like, but it's odd, but it's so perfect for the sports. Mm-hmm. Because the expression is, dude, that dude is money.
Right.
Yeah.
That shot was money.
So
that pass is money.
Right.
That it's not so relevant now as like that kind of slang, but it was,
then it was
big. Like when you got that nickname, and
people still say it though.
They do, but it's but
you're just older now.
No. Our as we grow, it's still with us. But I mean, the younger kids, I don't think they say that's money. I think they say that's like. I don't even know.
That's all that. It's
it's like
they got something else.
Something else.
Just like our parents said groovy. We said money. We say money, and now our kids say something else.
Yeah, right? There's way worse nicknames than money. Money's you're stoked.
You're stoked.
That works out perfect.
And it was a great time. Like I got to the Lakers right when they hired Phil Jackson.
Shit!
So that was my first year when they went on that
dream team.
Incredible, like nobody expected him to do anything. 2005. No, not the first one.
Okay.
Second one. Remember they fired Phil after 2003, went through Rudy Tomjanovich and all of that.
Yeah.
And then they brought him back. So it was when they brought him back in 2005. So my first year was 2005, 06, and that was the year that they had the 3-1 series lead on the Suns that they blew, and ended up losing 4-3. Yeah. So they lost back-to-back years in the first round. My first 2 years to the Suns. I
But
lived
still
through
dynamic seasons.
still fun.
Yeah.
They weren't great because they weren't, you
Can we
know.
go at the roster again? It was Kobe. Was it Van Exel?
No, Van Exel was gone. So it was Kobe, Lamar were like the two big pieces.
Yeah.
And then everything else was just trying to fit it all together.
Yeah.
You know, it was Chris Mim at center. There was like the Smush Parker year at point guard. And it just...
Kwame Brown
at center. Like, there, yeah.
Butterfingers.
So it was...
Oh my god!
It was that era, those first couple years. And then it clicked, you know, then they made the Powell trade in 08, 09.
I mean, you gotta think about
07, 08.
how hard it is, teams, contracts, you know, like free agents and all of that. And you almost got to like, coming off of such a great high team, you know, like a super team.
Yeah.
You got to rebuild. You got to go through a few
it's
years
very hard
to kind of like almost put yourself there so you could get a high draft pick.
Right.
And, you know, there's all this like full long
Exactly.
game strategy.
What was it?
It's
Kobe Shaq was 2000 to...
It was 99, 2000, and then 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002. And then their last 04 was when they lost to the Pistons and it blew up.
And then
04, 05 was a disaster.
But Phil Jackson
came back
was
in 06.
there.
Yeah, Phil Jackson was
And
there.
then he
came
left.
back.
And then
he came back, yeah.
05.
Yes,
Okay.
05, 06.
And that's when you started.
Yeah.
Wow. What a gift.
Yeah, it was great. So I ended up getting 2 title runs, you know.
Were you a basketball fan at all?
Yeah, huge. I had Lakers. So one of the reasons why I took the London Records job was because I had asked them if they would buy me Lakers season tickets. And they said, even, you know, because my salary was low. And I was like, hey, would you guys be interested? Like, this is how bad the Lakers were back then. Like, it was... You know, they had just drafted Eddie Jones. That was when I got the London gig, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll get you." They're like, "But you have to like take clients." And I was like, "Absolutely." So they got me 4 tickets, section 21, row L, right above the tunnel where the Lakers came in and out at the Forum, and it was pre-Shaq, pre-Kobe. It was the year before. So, and I loved that. It might be my favorite Laker team ever. Like, I loved that team, man, because. Like I said, I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, how would I go about getting Laker tickets?" And they were like, "You tell me what you want, and you get them." And I was like, "Seriously?" And they're like, "Yeah."
This record label.
The Lakers.
Oh,
they weren't sold out.
Oh, this.
Nobody was going to
You were
Laker
working
games when I went to get my Laker tickets. Nobody was.
They're like,
going
what
to
do you
the
want?
games.
Hey,
In 05.
we have these 4 seats left, and
In
that's all we
05
got.
talking?
In 05? No. This is 1995.
When you were working for London.
When I was working for London, so that's how big of what I'm saying is that's how big of a basketball fan I was. I was like, hey, I'll come work for you. Maverick wants me. They're going to pay me $5,000 more, but if you give me Lakers season tickets, I'll come work with you. So they got me the 4 seats, and it was great, dude. It was Van Exel, it was Eddie Jones, it was Eldon Campbell. It was Vlade, and it was Cedric Ceballos. It was the starting 5, and dude, it was so fun. We had the best time at the Forum.
He told you that we were huge Laker fans.
Yeah.
And we would literally fucking live and die in front of his TV.
So
and
great.
just be like, what?
Yeah.
Fuck. Like,
That's how Dugan and I
were
connected.
so
That's how Dugan and I connected, is because I'm from Chicago, so I'm coming out to LA.
Bulls?
And the Bulls are fucking running roughshod over the league, and Dugan was a huge Laker fan. And so we just would butt heads nonstop in a fun way, about the Lakers and the Bulls. That's how we connected at first.
That's what's great about sports.
Yeah,
You know?
it's great.
You can have rivalries. You can vote for, or root for the other team, but you can bet. You can have good.
I watched the Bulls beat the Suns for that final, whatever that was, 93. I think that was 93 when they knocked off the Suns at like 3 a.m. on the French Riviera, because I was studying abroad and there was a train strike and I couldn't get back to our villa in Italy where I lived and went to school because the trains weren't running. and it was the game 6 against the Suns, and we were in the French Riviera, and we found like this bar that was broadcasting it, and it was like 3 a.m, and it was just a shit ton of Americans all packed into this place, freaking out. This is before flat screens. It's those little 13-inch monitors all over, and you're just watching. It was so cool.
It's pretty fun watching games out of the country.
100%.
Like it's like soccer, football is like, where how wild, like when World Cup comes in, you hear like it's like Super Bowl every night for like weeks. You're like, what the fuck? It's going nuts.
So I'll tell a quick funny story. I was in Japan, and this is like when the internet was first. It was still AOL.com, right? And it's like,
right.
And I think it was the finals against Portland.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Not finals, but
the
semifinals.
When the Lakers
versus Portland.
That incredible Game 7 comeback.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm in Japan, and I'm a diehard Laker fan, and I can't read Japanese. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go on the internet and see what the fucking score ended up, right? And I freaking finally go through the and then it said Lakers win by Shaquille O'Neal's free throw.
Right. You're thinking it's like the Onion.
And I'm like, wait a minute, what? We won the game because Shaq made
finally made one.
7 of their 7.
Yeah.
He was 7 for 7 on the free throw, and they won by like 2 points.
Because that was the end. Like, hey, foul him.
Remember?
Like foul Shaq.
Hack-a-Shack. It was Hack-a-Shack.
So when they moved to Staples Center, I had to go from 4 to 2 tickets because they bumped the price, and they moved me. I used to have these killer seats, and the seats they gave me were not great. I ended up getting rid of them like 3 years later. I just didn't like them. I was not happy with, because we kind of had our own little group. The Quicksilver, actually girls that worked at Quicksilver sat behind us, and they were super cool at the Forum. And so when we moved to Staples, that game 7, I'm with a guy, this dude that I worked with at KROQ for a long time, Zeke. He's freaking awesome dude, huge Laker fan. We're at that game, and my 2 seats were here. 2 seats that were here were given to opponent players. So we would always have like opponent player friends, opponent player family, something like that. And they were all super cool. It was actually better because they weren't weirdo fans. They were just family. And they would just, it was fun to kind of just pick their brain. And it was cool. You'd kind of get a little insight as to how that person was and that sort of thing. So sitting next to us were these 2 dudes, full on freaking gangbangers, friends of Damon Stoudemire's. And dude, they're full on colors on their jeans, on their headbands and stuff, wearing red, and the Blazers are up big, and they're just sure. And we were having fun. We were buying beers for each other. They were super cool guys, and they're chirping at us and stuff. And Zeke just looks right at one of the guys. He pulls out of his pocket. He goes, "I'll bet you $100 that the Lakers win this game, but if they lose, you give me your colors." And the guy's like, I was like, what the fuck, dude? The guy looks at me, he's like, what? He goes, that's the deal. You want it? And the Lakers were down like 12 at the time. He's like, all right, I'll take that bet. And so when the Lakers win, he's like, let's go. He's like,
Game 7.
He's like, yes.
Portland.
So this guy already, he's friend of Damon's. He's freaking crushed because they blew that lead.
Yeah.
And Zeke's like, all right. And he's like, dude, I ain't giving you my colors. Like, fuck, you aren't.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, and his buddy was like, deal's a deal, dude.
Yeah, man.
So he takes his headband off. Freaking Zeke puts the headband on. He's dancing in front of him. I was like, we're going to die. This is terrible.
That was the Kobe alley-oop.
To Shaq.
And
then Shaq running with the...
And then Shaq going.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was in the building for that one as a fan. As a fan.
But you weren't working for him then?
No. Back then I was working at DreamWorks. Just had season tickets, and I think that's something that helped me out a lot. Is it was very easy for me to relate to the fans as a diehard fan. I became I let go of all of my Chicago fandom. Just I don't know. It was easy for me to logically process it. I was like, why would I still cheer for the Cubs when I can go to 50 Dodger games a year? Why would I cheer for the Bulls when I can go see the Lakers or the Kings? The Kings were the one that really did it to me. Like, I became a huge Kings fan because I hated the Blackhawks. Their owner was a dickhead, and I hated him. He traded everybody, and so that was easy for me. So once I got into the Kings and was a huge Kings guy, I was like, well, why wouldn't I do this for every sport? Like, I love going to games.
And the Lakers were...
Yeah, and the Lakers were good.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so that's kind
You
of
want
what
to be
led...
the outcast of where you're working and meddling and work, you know.
And I tell people this all the time. And I say, like, the other thing, too, is, like, you know, it's like I have 3 kids. You know, they're girls, so they don't really love sports, but they like them. You know, my middle is the biggest sports person. She loves the Chargers. But I was like, why would I want to make my kids a Cub fan when they're 2,000 miles away? Like my friends who are here from other parts of the country, and they're like, oh yeah, my son's a Steelers and I'm like, what the fuck's your problem? You got the Rams and the Chargers here. Take him to those games. Why would you not make him a Dodger fan? He's a Pirate fan. Be a Dodger fan. Like, this is crazy. It makes no sense.
That's good for you, but not your kids.
Exactly. Let that be your team.
Yeah.
Let the local team be his team. That's
where
where he's growing up. You know, like, it makes no sense. So that part was easy for me. Once I kind of figured that out with the Kings, I became huge, you know, a huge LA sports fan for everything.
So back to 2005. You get
take the
hired.
Laker gig.
You take the Laker gig. You quit.
I do afternoons. I start doing afternoons on KLAC. So I leave KROQ. I'm out of music entirely. Now I have my own show, afternoons, 3 to 7.
And you work for KLAC?
For KLAC, for AM 570. Okay. Yeah. So now I've, you know, and then in Petros and I, this is our 18th year. You know, we've been doing it.
That's when you first met him?
Yeah. So, well, no, I first met Petros because when I was on Kevin and Bean, USC got really good. And Petros was doing stuff for USC because he was captain of the USC football team, and he was doing Fox Sports West stuff for them. And so I told the guys, I was like, hey, we should put him on. He's great. He's really funny. He's total Kevin and Bean style guy. And he grew up on Kevin and Bean, and so he was super stoked that, you know, I did that and got him on kind of the station he grew up listening to. Yeah. And so we just kind of built this friendship, and then he was working for a station, a tiny little sports station called AM 1540. They sold, flipped to Korean, so he was out of a job, and that's when we were like, dude, we should do a show together. It'll be fun. And that was 18 years ago. Wow. Actually, like, it might be like today. Like, it was
your anniversary.
Like, yeah, it's like right around today or maybe yesterday or something like that. I can't remember. It's like January 25th or something like that was our first day together 18 years ago. Yeah, so we've done afternoons together. And then I did the Lakers stuff for 5 years until they left to go to ESPN.
So when you did the show, you're on just radio, no cameras.
No cameras.
Would you'd be at the Staples
wherever
Center?
they went? I went. Yeah. Well, for the Lakers, I would go to their home games. The only time I traveled with them was in the playoffs. So I would go on the charter, stay in the hotel with them, do the games from the road in the postseason. During the regular season, it was too hard. Back then, we didn't have the technology like we have now, where it's super easy to do a show from anywhere. Back then, it was very hard to do a show.
Yeah.
So
you went to all the games
in the playoffs
at home.
At home, yeah. Every home game I went to.
Wow.
Kobe's 60 3/4, Kobe's 81, all of those, all the playoff games, you know, and then in the playoffs on the road, all the, you know.
Where would you sit in the...
So Chick liked to be above the court, like halfway up the floor section. So we had a perch. And I think they still do. So it's funny, when we go on the road, we'd get our courtside seats, but when we were at home, we would sit in this perch about 20 rows up, which was actually better because you had a better view.
So you would sit with Chick?
Well, Chick had already passed away, so I sat with Spiro. Spiro, Michael, and me would sit.
Michael
Thompson.
Yeah.
Michael Thompson. Yeah. So so we all sat together and watched the games, every game.
So rad.
That was great.
I mean,
Michael Thompson's awesome.
He's a great dude.
And you're
great
there,
guy.
like, I mean, you're rubbing. You know everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the guy.
You're interviewing players. You're interviewing. You know, I had to talk to Phil. You know, probably twice a week, 3 times a week. Players. You know, built a stronger rapport with some than others. You know, Kobe and I were pretty close. We got along really well, especially when he had girls. I had girls, so we kind of had that connection.
Yeah.
You know, having daughters. And Lamar is just to this day the best athlete I've ever been around. Like just the sweetest, most kind-hearted individual you've ever met.
Yeah.
Like had zero interest in taking care of himself until every single person around him was taken care of. Just like the best guy ever.
It's so
cool.
strange how gnarly he was, though, right? It must. I mean, it's a chemical.
Don't get me wrong.
imbalance,
He had a
right?
lot of. He's like Lamar is just. I can't even imagine. Like I truly can't imagine the blows that he's been dealt in his life. Like having to cope with just one of them. Like everything that guy touched that he loved died.
Yeah.
Like it was terrible. You know, parents,
So
grandparents, kids. Like it was just, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And so
the inner demons plus the chemical imbalance and
and my guess is the
hardships?
inner demons were stemmed from the hardships.
Yeah.
You know, like just like death. You know,
you wouldn't
the
wish
kid that
upon
passes
that
away
stuff
from
too.
SIDS, and it was terrible. So, but just the sweetest guy, great dude, like freaking great dude. God knows, I just would want to go back to bed into my hotel room, and he'd be like, "No, you're coming out. I'm throwing a party, and you're coming." And you're coming, and you're coming, and that's just how he was. He wanted everybody to have a great time.
Yeah.
Paid for everything, and
That's good peeps.
Yeah, he's a great dude. Just
Does
great
he
dude.
surf? Let's get him on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not great dude. So it was fun, you know. And Phil's such a cool guy, just such a bright guy. I would love to just sit and listen to him and Kurt Rambis. They were best friends, and just listen to them talk and just absorb.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm the dumbest person at this table, so I'm just going to shut up and listen and try to learn something.
For us, as you know, Laker fans, it's such a trip that we're seeing somebody that was like, you know, like there for how many games? 40 home games.
Yeah, 41 home games, and then any playoff games. So when they were playing the Celtics,
Gosh,
game one,
those are so good.
the series they lost. So 08. We're in Boston, and the way they would do it is after the game, you would have this like banquet room where you would go back to at the hotel, and they would cater it, and you would eat after the game as a team. And so we were in there, you know, eating. They had lost. It was a bullshit game. Paul Pierce with the fake injury in the wheelchair, and somehow he comes back and all that crap.
The drama.
And so
God, that dick.
And so I'm eating, and I go to take a leak. And as I'm taking a piss, Kobe walks in, and he stands next to me, and he's pissing next to me. And he goes, "Hey, man." Like, yeah, he goes, "We're going to fuck these guys up in game 2. And, you know, what am I going to say? Like, and I just like, "Oh, I know." He goes, "Hey, we're going to fuck these guys up in game 2. I was like, "All right, Kobe, you better, man. You got to get that split." He's like, "Yeah, you're fucking right, we will." And I was like, "All right."
Dude.
Good talk. It's just funny.
Yeah.
You
You
were
fuming.
You were taking a piss next to Kobe Bryant.
But he was cool. Like, he and I, we would chat quite a
And
bit.
he said those words.
Yeah, he was just. I point that out because that's just how he was wired. Like everything was. Oh no, fucking we're gonna win this. Everything is like I'm on. I'm still on.
We gotta rewatch that series.
Yeah, that was a bad.
Even
that
though
one was
we
tough.
lost, that was fucking.
Yeah, remember they blew the game 4. That's what crushed them because they won game 3, so it's 2-1, and then they're up in game 4 and they fucking blow it and go down 3-1, and that was that.
So were you there for Orlando the win?
Yeah, I was in Orlando, and that's like, and so for, you know, when people ask me most about, you know, like my relationship with Kobe, you know, that's the thing that I always point to is he wins his first title without Shaq. He's done probably an hour of media. He's got 2 little girls. His wife's there. Everybody's celebrating, and you know, we send word in, "Hey, Matt's doing post game. If you don't mind, if you could just maybe, we'll give you a phone. If you can call him, it'd be great to have you on." And he's like, "Oh no," and he freaking, you know, gave Vanessa the girls, and he walked out and he sat with me, and we ended up just chatting for like 10 minutes, you know, in the midst of all the different things he's being asked to do. Like post game radio is nothing. It's like this big in terms of,
but to,
you know,
that's
commitments.
to the hardcore
but
fans.
to him, to him, like, hey,
I owe this.
I know this guy. We've been chatting for 5 years now. I finally reached the pinnacle. I know what probably listen to the post game. I know what this will mean to the people driving around LA. This is the local audience. You know, it's not the people watching TNT. I'm now talking to the city of LA and LA only. And so he made that point to come out and do a good like 10 minutes and give back.
Fuck.
Yeah, he was cool. Like he was really cool. He was the same. He was very similar to Lamar. Was always just trying to invite you to do stuff. And I tried to. I don't know. Kobe was different than Lamar. I just tried to keep my distance.
Yeah, it's hard when
he's a
somebody.
superstar. I don't want to.
Yeah, you just like I don't. Like you deal with your own fucking celebrity.
It's a different
shit,
deal.
but
He's a different deal. That
yeah.
he was just So, but we had a couple really good, kind of like. On the road, just I'm in the bar, I'm a drunk, so I'd be in the hotel bar all the time, and like every now and then, one of those guys would just be walking by and just would grab a chair, and the next thing you know, you're talking to him for an hour or two, and it's the same way with the Chargers, like Phillip Rivers was like that, super good dude, like the best. Him and Lamar are probably like my top two. Like just Phillip was the coolest freaking guy, man, and like whenever we would find ourselves in conversations, just a real guy.
So when did you?
So the Lakers left for ESPN. They wanted me to go with them, but that would have meant leaving my afternoon show, and I didn't want to do that. I love, as you can tell, I've been doing it for 18 years. So I was like, I'm not
Can't
going.
do both at
I'm
that
not,
point.
I was like, I'm not going to ESPN as much as it's crazy to give up the Lakers job. So they left. So now I don't have that other play-by-play sort of component or whatever. So then I ended up getting hired by a national syndicator, Compass Media, to do pre, half, and post for football, for college and NFL football. And then they hired me to start doing play-by-play.
L.A.
No, national.
Oh, national.
So national.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would do whatever the game of the week is. Penn State versus Wisconsin, USC versus Arizona, whatever the game of the week was for them. And so then I got hired they hired me to do play-by-play. I started with college football. And college basketball, and I started doing NFL football, and so I would basically be on the road every single week doing a game somewhere in the country.
Wow.
And that's how I got into football, and I was also working for the NFL Network by then, so I got hired by NFL Network to launch their fantasy show. That was right after that, it was weird. So I turned down the move with the Lakers, and as soon as that happens, I get a call from the NFL Network that says, hey, we're launching a fantasy show, we want you to host it. So that's when I got my TV NFL Network gig to launch NFL Fantasy Live. And then that led to the syndicator calling me saying, hey, can you work on the weekends if you're doing NFL Network every weekday? And I was like, yeah. So it was
hustler.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
say yes to everything. So it actually was the best move I could have made. So not only do I not go with them to ESPN, I get to keep the radio show that I love doing more than anything. But now I'm on TV, and TV has now led me into the world of the NFL. And that's how I got the Chargers job. But you know what? And here's another good lesson. So how did I get the Chargers job? So the head of PR for the Lakers was John Black. There was someone he had just hired under him back then who had just graduated from Pepperdine, Josh Ruprecht. And, John is the guy that I need to go to for everything. And hey, John, I need this, I need that, I need that. But Josh was a cool guy, and we got along and treated him with respect. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to go to John. I'll just go through Josh, and that way I don't need to deal with John's shit. Josh is a much cooler dude, and I'll just everybody else would always just go over his head and go straight to John. And it's like, well, no, protocol is you should go to Josh first, and then he'll take it to John. But nobody did that because that's just how too many people operate.
Yeah.
And so Josh ends up becoming the head of the Chargers PR, the number one guy. And when they moved to LA, he's like, oh, I know who we're hiring to do play-by-play. We're hiring Matt. And so that's, you never know where someone's going to end up. Don't think about where they are. Just think about what type of person they are. If they're a good person, treat them with respect.
Amazing advice.
Yeah.
It is, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds so easy to do, but yet people are always so selfish and be like, dude, I'm going to go on a diet.
You gotta quit big timing people.
I'm gonna go above. I'm gonna get the guy above.
Right. Yeah. So that's how I ended up getting hired by they called me. They're like, hey, we're moving to LA and we want you to be our play-by-play guy. I was like, fuck yeah.
So you're going back to the crossroads of leaving KLAC to go to ESPN?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to do that.
I didn't. I just didn't want to leave. The radio show felt like it was something special. Like we had something working that.
And you're talking radio show.
Our 3 to 7 show, our afternoon show with Petros. Yeah, Petros and Money.
And you still do that. And you never quit.
18 years. Yeah, it's probably the longest.
You got to still do that.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing the Chargers. And,
yeah.
Wow.
So.
And working weekends.
And doing the weekend thing during football season, like that's the nice thing about football is it's, basketball's 82 games. It gets to be a grind.
Yeah.
Football's 17, 20 games with the preseason and however many playoff games. It's nothing.
Yeah, because
it's easy.
now there's Thursday night football.
Right.
But it used to just be
Monday.
Sunday.
Yeah. So we have a couple Thursdays here, but for me it's a game a week. It's one game a week. So now I do college basketball in the off season. So like I'm calling the St. John's UConn game at MSG.
And is that
on Saturday? That's through the people that hired me originally, Compass Media, who hired. So I still do college basketball.
Is that kind of like an independent contract?
Yeah. Independent contractor. They're a syndicator. They hire me to do games.
Hey, these is the games we want you to be at.
Exactly. So I usually do like anywhere from 3 to 8 games, and then I do the Big Ten tournament for them. So I'll go to Minnesota for the Big Ten basketball tournament and call all those games in Minnesota. But yeah, it's great. It's
what about
super
March Madness?
So I don't do any of the March Madness. That's Westwood One, so that's a different syndicator. So the company that I work for, their last thing is the Big Ten tournament. Those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those 5 days I do, and then I'm done. And that's when I get released and I can kind of breathe.
So can you give me a rundown of your setup and a play-by-play? Like what kind of information's coming to you?
So here, I'll show you.
How much is in your head?
So imagine, here we go, we'll do it like this. So imagine that imagine that this is a legal folder, like a legal size manila folder, you know what I'm talking about? So I have one of those. So when you open it up, on this side, I've now got it open, right? Yeah. It's this wide. And on this side, I've got the defense. And on this side, I have the offense. And I lay it out like it looks on the field.
Where the players are supposed to be.
I've got offensive line, my quarterback's here, my running back's here, my wide receivers are here, my specialists are here. Here's my defensive line, linebackers, corners, and secondary. And that way, when I'm watching the game, and I line it up, I'm a little different than most people. Most people line it up positionally. I do it numerically. So that way, as soon as I see the play and I see number 25 makes the tackle, let's say I'm watching it, ball snap, Herbert passes to Allen, like the offensive stuff is a little bit easier because there's not as many numbers involved. It's skill players. It's a quarterback who's either handing it to the running back, throwing it to the tight ends, or the wide receivers. So that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Defense, everybody's in play.
Defense, everyone's in play. So defense, I don't have it lined up like it looks on the field. I just have a line of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, and 90s, and their names next to it with their stats and maybe a little nugget on them. So when they make the tackle, it's like, let's say, 52 makes a tackle. Oh, Khalil Mack, that's his 6. I've got a computer in front of me with the stats. I also had a stat guide. It's his 5th tackle. It's got a sack. Things like that. So, but you're looking at this while you're watching the game.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I can immediately have like a cheat sheet.
There's a fucking lot of players on. Basketball. Hey, I get it. There's 5.
It's easier.
Way easier, even though it's so fast paced. Football's slower, but there's so many players.
And the thing about basketball is it's a play-by-play game, right? Yeah. There's no pauses. It's just up and down, up and down. So all you're doing really is calling action. Football, there's downtime. So you're filling with, this is now, last 6 games, Khalil's had at least 5 tackles. He's got 6 and we're only in the third quarter, shit like that, because you're filling downtime. Whereas basketball, bang, bang, bang. It's a play-by-play sport. So you're just calling the action for the most part.
Crazy. And are you doing a lot of homework yourself or your staff?
I do it all myself. A lot of people pay for the boards. There's a company that does it. They do a really good job and they make boards. But for me, when I make it myself, it commits to memory. Yeah. So even though I'm putting it all on the paper, I kind of remember everything that I've put down.
Writing it down or typing it out.
100%.
Ingrains it a little bit.
It does.
There's visual. There's people that have photographic memory type stuff. They could just read it once and it's in there versus visual, having to physically write it and replace it.
And that's what I have to do. I've got to physically.
I'm like that.
So I do it with when people look at my boards, they laugh because everybody uses the dude because I think he charges like $100 a game, right? So
why wouldn't you, right? It's
exactly. So for $100, and it's pretty lucrative what you get paid to do games, but it's like, really, do I want? So this is the way you would do it. It probably takes me 6 hours of prep, maybe 6 to 8 hours of prep per game. I'm only making $100 for 8 hours of work. You know, like it doesn't make sense financially. Like it makes much more sense to spend the $100 and not waste not invest my 8 hours.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just I have to.
Yeah.
Like
it
I can't do it
in your rhythm and the way your process
exactly.
is. So it's like
exactly
because that info is already embedded in your brain.
Right. It helps me call the game.
Yeah.
Totally helps me call the game.
So, what do you prefer, basketball or football?
Well, football, because that's where he's getting paid, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, why
No,
would
it's funny.
Why
Like
would you say that?
Let him answer.
Kings.
I
He's going to hockey.
right. I love football, man. The football has juice unlike anything else. There's so much juice in a football game.
What do you mean?
Because I think because there's only 17 of them and every game is so consequential, you can feel it. You can feel the tension.
Yeah.
You can feel, and you know,
82 games in basketball, right?
Yeah, you can fuck off one game and who cares? You know, it's
That's
like
true.
whatever. Not in football.
Yeah.
Every single game is of the utmost importance. And I just like the sport. I think it's chess. I mean, it's the most complicated, advanced. It's not even close. It's like you could have the best player on the field and it doesn't matter. You could totally get
I'm
out
gonna throw some
schemed.
controversy.
Okay.
Whoa.
I just saw some meme or something, and that is football rigged.
Oh, the old script. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this one play, God, I wish I could pull it up right now. I just saw it last night.
Yeah.
I think it was defense was Broncos.
Okay.
And then I think it was Buccaneers. Is that right?
They could play each other, sure.
Okay. And no, it might have been KC.
This is like it just happened.
I think.
So it was Buccaneers Lions. It was.
It wasn't. I don't think it was a playoff game.
Okay.
But it was just a meme from this.
I got you.
Whatever. And the guy, it was weird because the defense. Okay, there was like this guy that was on offense, quarterback's right here, and the defense went to this guy instead of going to the quarterback.
Right.
But when you watch it, you're like, you were closer to the quarterback than you were. Like, what was this guy? He's not even in play. Like, why did you
go to the ball?
Yeah, why did you go to this guy? So
one, it can't be rigged. There's just too many pieces, and it's too violent. Like that's the other thing about football. It's the violence is incredible.
Yeah.
Like I get to see because I fly with the team, I travel with the team. Like I get to see what these guys look like after games.
So you get to go to all the games.
I go to every game with the Chargers. Yeah, wherever they go, I go. I'm with them, so I'm an employee of the Chargers.
Dude.
They're like,
how could you put that many players in a script?
right. It's too hard, and there's too much.
They would be calling out. They've been doing this whole life. How would somebody be like, dude, I'm not.
And it's just too
Chelsea
dangerous.
Yeah,
it's too dangerous. Like the violence is incredible. They look like when they get on the plane, they look like they've been in a car crash. Like there is ice all over their body.
Yeah.
They're barely moving. Like they are miserable. It's like I don't know how you sign up for that. Like what they put their bodies through. It's there. You can't rig this stuff because of the amount of just damage they're doing to themselves.
Yeah.
Game in.
I mean, there's been
game
known
out.
that a ref takes a little
ref can
drive,
do it.
whatever, and
Yeah.
there's a funky call here and there, but that gets pretty eliminated pretty quick.
Yeah, it could be a
Yeah.
ref, but as far as like players,
Yeah.
because even if you blow your assignment, like there's too many other pieces around that can account for that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, being around like basketball players and football players on their physique, you walk around just in the world, normal people,
Yeah.
and then you walk around these professional basketball and football players, and
They
you're
look
like,
different.
you're like, where the fuck did you come from? Like you see them every once in a while, like a big person on the street, but they're usually not somebody that's been trained to like be physically crazy.
It's funny when you see like basketball players are freaks, because they're just so big and gangly, and like it's just. But like it's funny when you see the outliers amongst the outliers.
Yeah.
Like they're all like so. There's a couple people that I've come across, like on the football field, that when you see them, like I remember the first time I ever met Tony Baselli. because he calls games, and for people that don't know, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the great offensive linemen ever. He went to USC. But I can remember the first time I met him, and I just looking, just the size of his hands, the size of his wrists, like just the way this man's built, I'm like, I don't know how my ancestors were able to outrun his ancestors, because they would just pick you up and tear you in half.
Yeah.
He's such a different, it's like he's a different being, like the size of the thickness of his fingers. It's like, holy shit, what the damage this guy can do to you physically.
Yeah.
It's so humbling when you there's another guy, Montez Sweat, who was on the Redskins, they were the Redskins. The Commanders before he was traded to the Bears. Same thing. When you see him, you're like, what the fuck is that? Like,
And
this guy is
agile,
exactly,
and strong, and just they're fucking
killing machines.
Agile,
just killing
mobile.
machines. That's how Herbert is. Like, when you see Herbert, you're like, what the fuck?
Brad Pitt?
He's Justin. I mean, he is, dude. Justin Herbert's 6'6", 240.
Is he?
Yes.
He doesn't look it.
He is 6'6", 240 pounds. He is
the quarterback.
Yes, a massive
Brad Pitt.
human being. Yes,
I didn't know he's that
massive
big.
human
And
being.
240 is actually like pretty ripped and lean. Like that's not even like for 6'6". Like,
Right.
I mean,
He's
He is
6'6".
Huge.
He doesn't
gigantic.
look 6'6" at all.
Yeah, he's giant.
I thought he was like maybe 6'2". But
6'6", dude.
like 6'6"
And
is
240.
He's a horse. He is
Holy
a
shit.
horse. Like, when you see, like, it's crazy when you see, like, Derwin James is the same
he
way
better
as a safety.
fucking pull it off though.
Yeah. Well,
He's
incredible.
I mean, I'm not a big football guy, but a couple of my friends are, and I'm just like, dude, come on, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
football
Get your
is
fucking ass
football
in
is
gear.
coaching and quarterbacking,
Yeah.
and they have not had the coach, and now they do.
Yeah.
And now they now. And I was doing that national syndication. I ended up doing a bunch of Stanford games. I did a ton of them when Jim first got there, and so I watched him tear down USC. Like, I watched him basically just say, like, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in sports. What he did with Stanford, it made no sense that he was able to do it at that school. He's coming from Michigan.
Yeah.
But he was at Stanford. He took a 1-11 Stanford team, turned them into a 12-1 Stanford team, and basically ran Pete Carroll out of college football because he just cracked the code. He's
Is
like,
that what happened?
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, there was the famous, I call it the famous "What's Your Deal" game, which is where Toby Gerhardt ran it down their throats the entire game, and basically at the end, he was the running back, white kid out of Norco that just abused the Trojans that whole game at the Coliseum, and Jim ran up the score. I don't remember what the final was. It was something like 55-20 or something. He scored late and went for 2.
And that's
and
why
at the end of the game, Pete
went
Carroll
to Seahawks.
Pete Carroll came up to him and he said, "What's your deal?" And it's a famous, you can look it up on the internet. It's a famous kind of moment. He's like, "What's your deal?" And Jim Harbaugh goes, "What's your deal?" Then he just walked away, and he was like, "Fuck this! I gotta get out of here. It ain't the same."
He's a kook anyway.
Yeah, but
Pete Carroll's a kook.
Yeah.
But Stanford wasn't. Yeah, they've never been a great football team except for those.
No, Stanford's. It's the most academically challenging D1 school. Like, the idea that they could be competitive in football of all sports, it's like, yeah, you can be competitive in golf and baseball and swimming. Football?
Yeah.
No, like, you need freaking gnarled dudes to be able to play football, and he figured it out. He figured out how to do it with these. Yeah. He called it intellectual brutality, where he got the smartest kids that were tough and said, "They're all coming here, and we're gonna beat the shit out of people."
Where did he come from? He coached Ravens?
So Jim was a player, played for 20 years, was on the Bears, was on the Colts, was on the Chargers, and then just kind of meandered around trying to figure out what he wanted to do. Coached quarterbacks for the Raiders for a quick minute, and then got the head coaching job at San Diego, University of San Diego, D2, Toreros. Crushed it. Went 11-1, and they were like, "Oh my God, this guy knows how to coach." And then Stanford hired him. So then he goes to Stanford, takes a 1-11 team, ends up taking them, basically winning the Pac-12, going 12-1 that one year, and had a bunch of winning seasons. And then the 49ers hire him.
That's it.
Takes a 6-10 49er team to 13-3. It's 3 straight NFC championships, a trip to the Super Bowl, and then Michigan hires him, and then he just won the national championship with Michigan. Now the Chargers got him.
So fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
60. And
I do like football. I mean,
It's fun.
I do
Yeah.
I like basketball. Basketball definitely used to be the number one sports for me, but I do like
Yeah,
the
football.
chess game.
but it's chess, dude. There's
Yeah.
so many things going on. It's
But
so much fun.
I love
How many great moments you've sat and watched with your own eyes versus like behind the TV or whatever, and you're calling out a lot of these games.
Yeah, I had a couple when I was doing, like, especially when I was doing the national games. I had some really good ones. I called the Alabama-Tennessee game in Alabama.
Oof.
A year that
Talking
they won the
about
national
sports
championship.
fans,
Oh
like
yeah,
these college
freaking
games.
psychos.
it means more. It
And
means more to them than
yeah, so it was Lane Kiffin's first year at Tennessee when he got there, and so
he's from USC.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was at USC, and so like they were probably 21-point underdogs, and they're lining up to knock off undefeated number 1 team in the nation, Alabama, on a field goal. Saban's Alabama team, and they're lined up, zeros on the 1 second on the clock, last play of the game, and freaking I can still remember it like I'm sitting here watching it right now. Terrence Cody freaking busts through the line, blocks the kick, the entire stadium erupts, like you can feel it in your chest, the cheers and the people jumping inside the stadium.
Wow.
Like those moments are incredible.
Yeah.
The amount of college support and the like talking about roadies and
Yeah.
like it's fucking
Half
wild.
Yeah.
half the stadium is the opponent's team.
Yeah.
Like they come in
Or
fucking,
opponent's fans.
Droves. Yeah, they
Yeah.
come in droves. It's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, so I've been very, very fortunate, and I'm very thankful for all the cool shit that I've been able to do and see. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Any surf trips you've been on? I know
No,
you got this work schedule that seems
Yeah.
like I don't even know where you.
nothing special.
Yeah.
Hawaii, it's really been for me like that's unfortunately the only thing I've been able to do so far is just Oahu for couple 7-10 days and just kind of go from Queens up to the Bowls and Kaisers and everything
Yeah,
sort of in
fine,
between. So
perfect.
that's normally what I do. But now that I'm into it, like all those surf trips that I passed on to go on golf trips,
Yeah.
essentially I'm like, God, my buddies went to Tavu, and I didn't go. And they used to go, there's that group from Surfside that would go down to Mexico, that little fishing, is that what it is? Yeah, that, shoot, I can't remember who would put it together, but like, I just missed out on all of it, when they would go on those trips. But I don't know, man. I don't know how I would do on surf trips. I assume you guys have done, obviously, all of them. And it's just,
He's done all of them.
yeah,
I've done some of them.
Most of them.
Yeah.
most of them.
Most all of them.
So what's the one, like, what's the one you have to do?
Mentwise.
Yeah. I mean, as just scoring waves and having just a surreal environment, like living on a boat. There's islands now that have camps, and you can go
Right.
do the Tabarua style like camps
Right.
in the Mentawai Islands. But those are cool. But just being on the boat and waking up in the boat and the camaraderie. You want to be with
Right.
a good group of people because you're sharing everything for 10 days. But the way it's just. You're fishing, you're hanging out, you're playing games, it's
World
just
class waves that
yeah.
you can go to different ones
Right.
in the Mentwise.
And
it's
I mean,
just like,
there's a lot of like great, like if you have
Tabarua would be sick.
Tabarua
Right.
is obviously
Indo,
yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean,
Bali.
yeah,
Right.
There's a lot of killer spots.
I mean-
Everybody brings up the tropical, but like, I mean, South Africa is fucking an incredible country. It's beautiful. There's all kinds of killer waves. You go to J Bay, then 2 hours inland, you're going to like one of the best like, animal parks in like the
Right.
world,
Right.
and you're seeing everything right there, like
I
true
only-
safari.
I only
Right.
care about tropical.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not that. I mean, it depends on the time of year. It's a little cold. You're wearing a
Yeah.
wetsuit, but it's not like. I mean, it doesn't.
Have you done Australia?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Australia's amazing.
Australia would
Yeah.
be sick too. I've
Yeah.
There's a
been to
lot
Australia.
of good. Again, Australia's fucking giant.
Right.
Like Gold Coast, which is the the most prestigious, I guess, because it gets the most coverage. Sydney's cool, but it's more like Southern California.
Right.
Dense, but yet there's really good ways. Western Australia is like the the Baja of Australia. It's like
Yeah.
kind of undeveloped. It's pristine and
Desert.
It's kind of far and rural and kind of cool, but it's like untapped Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah. I
I
mean,
know.
Hawaii as far as like not the tropicalness, but just the remote, like just beaches. It's fucking rad.
What's your favorite wave in Hawaii?
Backdoor. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if
He
you
likes it in the back door.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, back. That's
So you'll go pipe when it's firing.
Not so much anymore, just
Right.
because it's so crowded, and I don't, really have the drive to go get killed. And
But this show's not about late night.
Yeah.
We're talking to Matt Money Smith.
I know. I just gotta get excited.
Yeah.
That's for me. Like that's you guys talking
There's
to
a
me
lot
about
of good
sports.
ways
It's
over
me
there.
talking to you about
Yeah.
that stuff that I would love to do that I just don't.
Any wave pool experience?
Not yet. No, not yet. And I my you guys know Lindsay. Like Brian Lindsay's tried to drag me up to Slater's pool a couple times, and he's like, "Come on, dude." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"How much is it?"
yeah,
I can't do that. Like that's just not. I got 3 kids, man. So I haven't done that yet. I'll get out to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I know Colby had great things to say about Waco. He said he had a good time down there.
Colby,
But,
Waco's freaking insane.
yeah,
Yeah. But Slater's pool, you definitely have to
I know. I got to figure that out.
yeah.
I gotta figure
Palm
that out.
Springs is a driving, 2-hour drive versus
Yeah.
flying to Waco now. It's like
I know exactly. Have you been to Palm Springs yet?
I haven't. He's been there.
How is it?
Yeah.
But not finished product in the testing
Kind of testing phase. Yeah. How was it
It
though?
was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was a short wave in the beginning.
Right.
I mean,
It looks like it's still pretty short.
it's way longer than it was though.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking like, for me, Goofy Foot, drop in, bottom turn, hit the lip, and then it closes.
And then you're
out.
done.
Yeah, now
But
they're
the
getting
dudes
3
that-
turns.
There's videos of like Mason and Blair. I mean, all the pros.
Right.
They make it look so fucking good
Right.
because they rip. But when you're me and
Right.
you get there and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get barreled on that. Oh shit! I don't know.
Well, I just watched a lot of clips from the Grom Search event. They just ran an event there for the kids, and it looked insane.
So
Like,
Right.
the kids, I mean, the kids are small and maybe look
Yeah.
Right.
more. They all rip too, but it looked fun.
It's
Yeah, it's-
crazy how
yeah.
many amazing wave pools there are in the world.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I'm bummed that they didn't get that Slater pool out there. It
In
would have been
Palm
nice.
Springs,
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah,
Just going to Lemoore, it's like, ugh.
it's a long ass
It's
drive.
a long
man.
ass drive, and it's expensive.
It's super expensive.
Yeah,
So fun.
it's a tough deal.
Go on a road trip.
Yeah, that's why I just booked a 25th anniversary with the wife to Hawaii. She's like, "Where are we going?" I was like, "I'm staying."
Hawaii, so
Hawaii,
great. Start
Hawaii.
5
Yeah,
hours.
go and surf ride. Well, I mean, it's like I would assume Waikiki will still be good in April, right?
Always.
Yeah, it's
Always,
always fun. Yeah, so I was like, "Yeah, we're staying at Surf Rider."
Perfect.
And then I'll just, the last time we were there is funny. Like I was still not, like I feel like I can pretty much handle it now. Back then I wasn't, the last time I was there was 2 years ago, and I'm much more advanced now. But so we go, and I'm always very conscious of the lineup and just kind of sit and wait and chat a little bit. And so I end up paddling, and it was big. We had a storm come through, so we ended up getting some really killer waves. And so I ended up paddling all the way out to Queens. And I'm just kind of sitting there waiting, and everybody ended up super cool people, right? But they're all getting these killer waves, and then finally, none of them are paddling, and I was like, "Here we go, here's my wave." So I go to pedal into this wave, and it just fucking jacks up, and I get absolutely destroyed. And as I freaking get my bearings back and paddle back to the lineup, everyone's kind of got a smile on their face, and one of the older guys like, "Why you pedal for that wave, huh?" I was like, "Well, none of you guys were going." "That's why none of us were going." And he's like, "You get the next one." I was like, "All right." So I just sat there, and he's like, "All right, go." And then I ended up getting my great wave, and I was like, I guess I had to freaking take a beating to get this freaking dude to, and that's what's cool. Like, that's my favorite thing about surfing, are just like those interactions,
Yeah.
that I didn't say anything to anyone. I get freaking cleaned out, and everybody kind of giggles, and now I'm in. And
He
now
paid his dues.
he's like,
Well,
that's
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, if you're being cool and you're not taking waves and you're waiting your turn,
Yep.
and they see something like that, you're like, okay, you deserve to go on another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
and that's exactly
cool.
what it was.
Yeah.
Everyone was super cool, and yeah, and it was so like that's always my thing with surf trips is I just get kind of a little nervous about
Quality of like ability,
fitting in, like my ability versus what's out there, locals, and I don't want to fuck with them and just be respectful while still having a good time. It's just kind of a weird little dynamic.
Larson said it's like when you are cool, people will be cool to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you show respect, you're going to get respect.
Right.
Like that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and there's
everywhere.
You can identify the guys that are just angry, and they're just got a temper. Like, okay, I'm not going to bother that people. Other people smiling. You can instantly read people pretty quick.
Yeah,
you just don't go out there. You just kind of take your time and chit chat to an extent. You don't need
take
to
it all in.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the first time that I went to Kaiser's. They're
a little. There in bowls are a little bit more
very
localized.
So I'm sitting there, and again, I'm not taking any waves. I'm just basically gonna wait for one that nobody's paddling for. And as I'm sitting there, this guy's like, "Hey, a shark," and I figure he's just fucking with me, right? And there's a guy in a sup that he's talking to who's behind us, because he's on a sup. He's like, "Hey, there's a shark," and the guy's like, "Yeah, sure, shark, fuck off, eh?" And the guy's like, "No, hey, shark." And I turn around and I'm like, "Oh fuck, there really is a shark." There's just a shark cruising, and the guy turns around and he's like, "Oh yeah, shark." He just turn around like it's nothing. And I was like, "Okay, I guess we're just sitting here now. There's just a shark right there, and I'm not gonna do anything because I want to fit in with these guys."
As there's been more shark attacks than
I know, right? It's been gnarly lately. And so I didn't know what to do. I was just like, well, I guess I just got to sit here. I can't freak out and just like paddle.
Just paddle right in between right?
It's right between you two guys. Exactly. And so I just sat there and I was like, I guess this is normal. I'm just sitting here and there's a shark right behind us and we're just going to sit here. Yeah. And it was just like, whatever. This is how the lineup works.
Yeah.
So it's shit like that I'm trying to figure out. I don't know if I was supposed to paddle in, but nobody moved. Like, nobody moved.
No one figures that one out.
No. Just try not to get,
Don't get eaten.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, shit, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Take your brain another time on more Laker shit and sports fan shit.
That's been fun.
Well, we got to talk about the 2-year stint as program director.
Oh yeah, as music director, that was wild. That was the whole Morrissey thing. He fucked us good. That's just a million of those stories. Yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot.
So Matt Money Smith.
Yeah.
Chargers football.
Yeah. Be Chargers fans.
And then
afternoons 3 to 7.
Okay.
On AM 570 or the podcast, just Petros and Money podcast. We post that every day. We do 4 hours of radio for the most part. And yeah, that's it.
And you still do basketball, college.
I'll do some college basketball. Like I said, a week from tomorrow, I'll do the St. John's UConn game out in New York. And I got a UCLA Stanford game. I got a Purdue Michigan State game, and then I'll do the Big Ten tournament. But yeah, whatever. Chargers, I think would be the big one. We're trying to get LA and Southern California and the folks in San Diego to still be into football and become a Chargers town. Yeah, so that's what we're working on.
Yeah.
What board are you riding now?
Today I rode a 5.8 Mankind Sweet Potato. My longboard's a Kai Solace Mango Jam, a 9.0, and then I have a Stamps over easy 7.8, I think. Those are probably like my 3 main boards. Nice. Like if mid-size is usually, I'll usually take the Stamps to Bolsa Chica. I'll ride the Sweet Potato at the pier or at Huntington, at Cliffs or the Huntington Pier.
Yeah, a little more
whippy, and then I'll have the Kai Solace for the river, and for Sano, PV Cove. That's a great board, man. That freaking Mango Jam. If people haven't checked it out, it's so different than any other. Kai Solace. So it's a 9.0, but it's only 60 liters. So, and it's a Firewire. So it's just this real light, whippy longboard that it's not the best nose rider, but it's just got this maneuverability.
Easy
It's
to
so
turn.
easy to turn. It's so fun to have a board that big that moves that well. You know, when you're, because like those waves to me are kind of like snowboarding. You know, you're just kind of out like the PV Cove, the river wave when it's right, the Sano wave. It's like being on a mountain, and like that board just really whips super well.
Yeah, I mean, how often even people that do rip are nose riding? Not many, you know. So it's like having a board to just kind of like, you know,
exactly
turn and have fun on is
exactly. But
go
then
fast.
I'll, you know, like I surf with TJ. He's in the river a lot, and just watching him climb the nose, and it's just like, fuck, I wish I could do that. Like how good he is at it.
That's a different kind of fucking surfing, right?
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's so fucking hard.
Acrobatics.
It looks like, oh, effortless. They're not doing much. It's so technical. It's so hard.
It's crazy. Like every time he's so cool, you know, he'll just try to coach me up and stuff. I'm like, all right, get in the wave. And as soon as I get on that nose, you know, it's just, it's like, yeah, dude, you're doing something different than the rest of us.
Twinkle toes, you know, they just freaking.
Yeah, like it's nothing.
Yeah. Running plank.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe I'll go out now.
Yeah.
See if the pier is firing.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, we want to plug our sponsors.
Please, what do we got?
Caballero Pools and Spas.
Yep. Loose towels, changing ponchos, beach towels. This is a caddy towel. We asked if you golf, we'll give you a caddy towel.
Right on.
We got changing ponchos, outdoor towels, barbecue towels coming out soon. Yeah, everything.
Who makes those?
Loose.
Okay.
We got Earth Pack. Earth Pack does all your packaging and bag needs.
Very cool.
Yep.
Mark Johnson, Shape Me a Sup. I love him. He's a good
Nice.
dude over at Hobie. I see you got the Hobie bag there.
We got you hooked up bonsai bowl for you and the family.
Now we're
Bonsai
talking,
bowl.
dude. Love that.
We got 7 locations. They got Huntington and Newport,
Perfect.
Hawaii.
Laguna.
Shade sunscreen.
Now that I need. As you can see how white I am. Beautiful. You guys are doing great, man. Shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
A
Clear
lot of
Weather
sponsors.
brand, and then this Neon Wave is a boutique in Rochester, New York, and they sponsor the podcast. And with every like $150 purchase, they get a free
Dude.
late night with Chalky hat.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is go to thisisneonwave.com.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
enter the promo code late night.
And get a free hat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're wearing Colby Plus wetsuits.
Right now, I'm wearing Colby Plus, but I do want to shout out our friend Mikey Riley. Because
Free
fly, dude.
Woo!
This stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
Holy crap, how comfortable this stuff is.
Care package.
Colby Plus, Santa Barbara Ice Bath,
Dude.
which Rob does.
Yeah.
Have you hopped in yet? Has he
I
got you in, dude?
I saw the facility. I didn't have time to hop in, but I saw his little
Could you
showroom
maybe
demo.
tell him to put one in my backyard?
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, you know
I'm
what's
being
funny?
serious.
You don't, like, the thing is, like, Rob's got it on his gate, so you can just
Yeah.
pop the gate at his house and go right into it. And, like, he's, like, got the ice bath of Seal Beach that everybody uses. We just go and use his.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if you
those
go
guys are
to
rad.
Colby Plus and you type in Late Pod, you get 10% off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, those wetsuits are incredible.
Yeah.
They're so soft. Holy crap.
Finless skateboards.
Yep. Finless skateboards. We got a deck
nice.
back
These
here.
are handcrafted.
Nice.
Check that out.
All kinds of amazing woods.
Oh, I got you. So they're carvers. It's reverse trucked.
Yeah.
Nice.
But they make like cool little, not high performance skateboards, but
Yeah.
different models.
Yeah. This is like one of the longer ones.
That's great. Juicy wheels, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Killer.
Very nice. Yeah, those are rad. Look how pintail that thing is, too.
Yeah,
That's
they got
super
they
cool,
got like
dude.
6 different shapes, and then they do a bunch of customs with some collaborations with some of the shops and brands. It's cool.
Also, shout out to Shoots Beer.
Ashland Hard Seltzer.
Yeah, Shoots is a restaurant in Oceanside, and they have one in Carlsbad, but it's like killer fish tacos, poke
Right.
bowls. It's delicious.
Cool.
So if you
Yeah.
ever-
So anybody's down making their way to Oceanside, hit that place up.
Very cool.
They got like a little bar, like what do you call that? Like a little craft store, like a beer and wine shop affiliated. Yeah, it's
Right
killer.
on.
And Clearweather shoes, Clearweather brand shoes. They make amazing runners and skate shoes, and
Right on. Well, I guess I should, you know what? I'll plug one thing then, since I plugged the,
Please.
we love Rob,
Yeah.
we love Mikey. Plug that. But I'll plug my daughter's band. So
Yes.
yeah, come. She's freaking rad. Her band
What does
kicks
she play?
ass. She plays everything. So she sings, she plays in the band. She sings and plays guitar, but she plays drums, keys. She does everything.
What's the band called?
Preston Smith and the Mocs is her
Preston
band.
Smith.
They play. They're pretty well known around Seal. They play everything around. They did the Board Writers fundraiser 2 years ago. But
say
she's
the name again?
Preston Smith.
Preston
You can actually, the best thing to do is follow her, Preston Smith Music, on Instagram with a Y, Presty.
So she's the
Smith
lead.
Music. She's the lead. She writes music. She writes everything.
What kind of music?
She's all over the place. You know, she's got some freaking pretty rock sort of leaning songs, some pop, some indie, a little bit of everything. But
How many kids? In
4
the band?
pieces, all
Nice.
16-year-olds, drums,
How fun.
lead guitar.
Yeah.
She plays rhythm, and Emmy plays bass. Jack's on drums. Great kids. Just played NAMM, the big convention in town for musicians, last night. Played for Ultimate Ear inside the convention, and then played the Sheraton Hotel last night for all the drunks after they were done.
Epic.
But yeah, she plays around town a lot. So if you just kind of
Yeah.
like, she's playing, I think she's playing 320 Main for brunch. She does that twice a month.
Is she 16?
She's 16. Yeah. So they're playing. I think they're playing D Piazzas. They're in Long Beach in a couple weeks. But yeah, dude, that'd be the one thing, I guess, if I could plug anything, it would be check her out. Support local music. You know,
Yeah.
that's
There you go.
and if it's
Preston Smith and the Mocs.
Preston Smith and the Mocs, or just Preston Smith Music on Instagram.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
You got it.
Matt
man.
Money
That was,
Smith.
That was
Yeah.
fun, dude.
Dude,
That was freaking rad.
Going down memory lane.
some
bring up
amazing stories. And
Yeah, hope it
like,
wasn't too long and boring. It's
No.
always weird when you're talking about yourself so
I
much.
mean, music's such a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
And
sports are a huge part of our
and
lives.
sports have been, so it's like definitely a different type of episode and conversation.
I know. I hope it's not too like left field for people listening. If it is, if you made it to this
No,
point,
no,
apparently you
no,
might have
no.
found it
It's
interesting.
just-
So
It's
Is
just a
that
good
Val
perspective.
Surf hat too?
this is a Val Surf hat. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Val
exactly.
Surf.
Val
Yeah.
Surf. Yeah. Stamps. Shout out to Tim.
Yeah.
All those folks.
Yeah.
My buddy Sean, who works at Reef. Shout out to him. We got friends everywhere.
That's it.
Rocky, I love Rocky. You know, all the great
Nice.
work he does with the kids. You
Yeah.
know, I love Rocky's just rad. I was surfing the river, freaking some dude busted his head up against his foil, and who's the first guy over there? I mean, the guy was like having convulsions in the water, and freaking Rocky's got his giant board, and he's freaking lifting this dude out of the water and saving his life. And I'm like, dude, what don't you do? Like,
Yeah.
he's such a rad guy.
Yeah. We got to get him on the show
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, he's the best, dude.
Yeah, we
He's
talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
just such a, like you said, you know, like there's certain people in the water that you see them and you're like, there's bad vibe. But then you see Rocky, man, and it's just like this ray of sunshine in the
Yeah.
water. He's such a
Keeps trying to get me to come out on his canoe, like come out.
Right, on the outrigger? Yeah,
the
dude.
outrigger. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, dude, Matt Money
good stuff.
Smith,
Appreciate it, man.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.